Hi, welcome to an Alt-Shift-X live stream to talk about the brand new House of the Dragon Season 2 teaser trailer. We've had our first glimpses of the next season, and to discuss it, I have a very special guest. Please welcome Glidus.
A glimpse of Glidus.
A little glimpse of Glidus. Glidus is a Game of Thrones YouTuber who has done a bunch of...
Excuse me, the term is YouTubeist.
YouTubist, dragon man about town, who has made a bunch of videos about House of the Dragon and Game of Thrones, and I believe you have a House of the Dragon episode 10 video coming out very soon.
Very soon. If it doesn't come out, it's YouTube's fault.
Yeah, we blame YouTube for any delays or errors that we may...
I stubbed my toe last night. That was YouTube's fault.
Susan! Yeah, that's correct.
We've known each other for a long time, but we've never actually done anything together.
This is the first time we've live streamed together. I've heard that you have live streamed extensively with my disreputable nemesis, Alt-Shift-X.
Your scurrilous counterpart.
But I'll forgive you for that. And I'm happy to be here to talk about Hot D.
Me too. How exciting to receive new content after all this time, to be reminded that the show exists.
Yeah, I watched this trailer and I rewatched some of season 1 and I remembered how much I like this show. I sort of forgot what it was like to enjoy a Game of Thrones Westeros TV show because...
And that's just the thing, because most people haven't experienced this show in over a year. Whereas I've been thinking about it ever since.
Yeah, you've been deep in the trenches of Hot D for a long time now, so I'm so glad to have your expert dragon eye on this trailer.
Is that what I'm supposed to be?
So we're going to go through the trailer pretty much shot by shot and talk about what we're excited by, what some of the details might mean, who is this person and this dragon, what's going on. We're going to get into it and we're going to answer any questions that you guys have. I think we'll mostly answer super chats towards the end of the live stream, but we'll answer some throughout the live stream as well. And with spoilers, we're not gonna do any major plot spoilers. We're not gonna tell you anything super important that's gonna happen next season, but we will do some like basic information about some of the new characters and some of the general stuff that might be going on without spoiling anything important.
We're not going to ruin the show for you.
That's right. So, what's first in this trailer? What happens, Glidus?
Well, narration, firstly. What's a good trailer without narration? We've got Otto telling us, basically coping as to what happened at the end of Season 1. Trying to explain away the actions of himself, Alicent, Rhaenyra, and Aemond, probably foremostly.
Yeah, I love the passive grammar of errors were made as opposed to...
People have died.
Yeah, it's such political language instead of admitting, no, Otto, made some mistakes when that whole farcical race happened between Alicent and Otto to take control of Prince Aegon so that they could make him king and all the embarrassing violence that followed. It's been basically a disaster, but and one of the consequences of that was the death of Rhaenyra's son Luke at the hands of Vhagar and Aemond at Storm's End. So Luke's mother Rhaenyra is here looking over Shipbreaker Bay, looking at Storm's End. I've seen some people speculating that Rhaenyra might be here, like searching for the body of her son Luke.
I could see that.
Because I think there is, in the books, there's that talk about how...
The body was never found, yeah.
The body was never found. And some people claim that Luke actually miraculously survived falling from his dragon into the water and then lived out the rest of his days as a simple-minded farm boy or something. Doesn't the book say that?
Yeah, there is mention of that. I'm more inclined to believe that the Squishers took him.
Yes. Yeah, in the books, there are these Lovecraftian creatures who come from the sea called squishers. And there are some like semi-reliable reports that they like really exist and might like take people down into the depths and stuff. But yeah, this was Luke on Arrax who got killed by Vhagar at the end of last season.
Sag.
And we also saw Rhaenyra's like reaction to the death of her son, because throughout episode 10, Rhaenyra was trying to
As
make
Rhaenys
peace.
says, with all of these counselors telling her to plunge the realm into war, Rhaenyra is the only one who's practiced restraint.
Yes.
And Aemond kills that restraint here, and so this is the last shot of season 1. We're ready for Rhaenyra's dragon to awaken, and for fire and blood to engulf the realm.
Yeah.
Hooray!
Yeah. So like it was sort of a cliffhanger at the end of last season, wasn't it? Because we don't know how Rhaenyra is going to react to this traumatic death of her son. Her middle son, the son who was not so confident, because like her eldest Jace is so sort of like confident and educated and has a lot of strength and confidence to him, but Luke had all that doubt.
He's definitely favorite coded, as you can see throughout like the last
Favorite coded.
He absolutely is in episode 8 and 10. Like he is coddled. He is like absolutely Rhaenyra's like baby boy, and. Like in the scene where she farewells them when he rides off to Storm's End, yeah, like he's such a little baby boy, and Rhaenyra, treats him as such, and so it's basically the death of whatever peace and happiness still resided in this woman after losing her daughter and her father on the same day, and her crown.
Yeah, and also her unborn baby Visenya, who died. Like, Rhaenyra has lost so much so suddenly.
Yeah.
So there's going to be so much emotion. I mean, guilt is going to be part of it for pushing Luke into this situation, and anger.
To entertain a tangent for a little bit, which you might come to find is something I do rather regularly.
Oh, really?
I was wondering if, because Jacaerys is the one who suggests sending himself and Luke to treat with the Great Lords of Westeros, he might Jacaerys. He might blame himself in some way for what happened to Luke.
Yeah, that's an interesting idea. I mean, Jace, I find quite an interesting character. There's a few layers to him, because we've seen him sort of wanting to be this dutiful son. I mean, when he was young, he was like upset about the bastard thing, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Like he was asking his mother Rhaenyra, "Am I a bastard?"
Yeah.
Because of course he's the son of Harwin Strong, not the son of Laenor.
He's like questioning his identity, how that like makes him work in the world.
Yeah, a bit like Jon Snow and his bastardy. So he's got a lot of like pathos and sort of fear in him. But we see as he gets older, he becomes quite confident and forthright.
It doesn't matter what people think, is what he's saying here to Luke.
Yeah, and I think I speculated in a video that he might see Daemon as a bit of a role model in that sort of defiant attitude.
And there's that scene in episode 10 where Daemon takes Jace to intimidate the Kingsguard, and he's like showing Jace that, hey, fear is how we get people to do what we want.
Yeah. So it's like, what kind of person is Jace
Yeah.
going to be in this season?
So, coupled with the reaction of his brother's death at the hands of Aemond, and this like newfound vengeful, fearsome character, what is Jace's reaction going to be? I'm really excited to see how they depict this in season 2.
Absolutely.
It's when he's at the Eyrie and Winterfell.
Yeah, because remember, of course, Rhaenyra sent Jace north on his dragon to go and convince the Vale, the Arryns of the Vale, and the Starks of the North to support Rhaenyra in this war against Aegon and Alicent. So yeah, I mean, is he gonna? He's trying to be a diplomat, but he might be really angry at the death of the news of his brother.
Yeah, he was made to swear that he wouldn't get up to any silly business, but he's in the mood.
If there's one lesson from Hot D, it's that silly business is an inevitability.
You can't control when the silly business happens.
It strikes when you least expect. So Rhaenyra is reacting to
the trailer.
The trailer. So Rhaenyra is reacting to the death of her son Luke. And I love that it shows her like standing here facing Storm's End.
Yeah, we've never seen Storm's End from this angle.
Yeah. I love that Hot D is showing us more of the sort of geography and landmarks that we never got to see in Game of Thrones.
In episode 5 we saw Runestone again.
Yeah.
It appeared in one episode of Game of Thrones, and they reused the design. It was really cool that they did that.
Yeah. Again, I have been impressed by Hot D's willingness to like respect the canon of both the Game of Thrones books and the Game of Thrones TV show, which is not an easy thing to reconcile sometimes.
True.
But also to sort of iterate and vary from that to make itself its own thing.
Like the Iron Throne.
Like the Iron Throne. Yeah,
It's
the
like
Iron
a
Throne.
compromise between the Game of Thrones and Ice and Fire Iron Thrones.
Yeah, it keeps what is iconic about the Game of Thrones TV show, but it adds stuff to make it better.
And it's completely believable that over time it would become what we see in Game of Thrones. I don't know, Harrenhal's a bit small.
Yeah, it's true. But yeah, mostly they've made great compromises.
Yeah. We also see some really cool shots of King's Landing in this trailer.
Yeah.
From different angles we've never seen before.
Yeah. I'm really curious what they'll do if they show Casterly Rock. Like, are they going to show us the cool, big book Casterly Rock or the small, lame show Casterly Rock?
God, I hope not.
Anyway.
And Highgarden as well. How disappointing.
Yeah, right. So Rhaenyra is standing here outside Storm's End. She must have flown here on a dragon Cyrax. Which means, like, she must be thinking, how about I burn Storm's End right now?
How about I go in here and hold Boros Baratheon accountable for not stopping this?
Yeah. Because this is, the Lord Boros here allowed the murder of her son to happen, as far as she knows.
Yeah.
Why not kill Boros and install her own loyalists, take over the Stormlands right now? Like, that's got to be one of the things going through Rhaenyra's head right now. But it seems, grief and sadness is most of what's going on.
Foreboding music plays.
Uh-oh. And then we see King. Are we going to call him King, or are we going to call him the Usurper?
He's king. Girl is king. Whatever. The history books call him a king. We'll call him a king.
He has the Conqueror's crown and the Conqueror's name and the Conqueror's sword and the Conqueror's throne.
And the Conqueror's set of genitals.
He sure does. So what kind of king is Aegon II going to be, do you think?
One whose crown is too big for his head. And I think that that's an intentional costuming metaphor.
Yeah, it does look heavy on his brow, doesn't it? That crown.
Yeah.
I actually really like what they've done with Aegon II.
He's not entirely capable of living up to Aegon the Conqueror's legacy.
Yeah. Yeah.
But he wants to.
Yeah.
As we saw in episode 9 when he was crowned, and, he, for the first time, experienced the adulation of anyone, when, 10,000 commoners cheered him. It's like, yeah, we got a new king, fuck yeah. You could see on his face, he was so excited it was more relief. He was feeling love for the first time. It's crazy.
Yeah, that's what he asks Alicent on the way to his coronation is, do you love me? And Alicent replies, you imbecile.
You're an idiot.
So when
I love that line so much.
Yeah, me too.
Episode 9 is sometimes a bit hard to handle, but it's got some really great bits as well. Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, my feeling, at least from this, is, I feel like there's a question here. Like, is it possible that Aegon II, this monstrous person, who, puts his own children into a fighting pit and who rapes servants and who is a really, really horrible person, is it possible that he might be a little bit less terrible? Is it possible that he could actually make some half-decent decisions now that he's been crowned? Could he live up to this responsibility, or will he just be terrible? I'll be really interested to see what they do with him.
Excited to see how he reacts to this change in circumstances.
Yeah.
Because he rejected the crown. He really didn't want this.
Yeah.
And now that he's, let's see what we can do with it now that we're here.
And he laughed at the idea that his father Viserys would have actually wanted him to be the king. So he doesn't really believe in his own legitimacy. Like in the books especially, it acknowledges that no, Aegon thinks Rhaenyra is the rightful king. The rightful ruler.
They come to crown him, and he's like, "Hang on a moment, I thought it was my sister's turn."
That's one of the interesting things about the books is that the books emphasize that it was Criston Cole who convinced Aegon that he should take the throne, and he should take it because Rhaenyra will kill Aegon if he doesn't take it.
I think, in some sense, that's a holdover from when George was inventing the Dance of Dragons. Like, in his head, it was this story of brother fights brother in Eric and Eric Cargill, and Criston Cole, the treacherous Kingsguard who, betrayed his king's orders and crowned... Yeah. He was besmirched by the princess, and so he decided to crown... Yeah, it became a lot less... It became more involved with other people as the story evolved in George's head, is what I'm getting at.
Yeah. Yeah, in, the early mentions of the Dance of the Dragons in the main Game of Thrones books, it largely is a story about Criston Cole and about Criston Cole's breaking his Kingsguard principles by getting involved in politics.
And the reason for that is because it relates to how characters in those stories are currently dealing with their own Kingsguard vows.
Yeah, so like Aris Oakheart with Ariane and the Dornish plot, and Jaime with all of his misdeeds. It's like the purpose of Kristen in the main series is to meditate on what George always bloody meditates on, which is about like when do we compromise our duty to the greater good and our principles for our own personal desires and for our own loyalties, and like that's sort of what the Dance of the Dragons kind of is about Kristen in that situation. But of course, George, as he does, gardened and grew the story into something much bigger, and that's how we got Hot D.
Yep.
So Aegon, I love Aegon's outfit here, by the way.
Yeah, he passes the drip check once more.
Like, one of the things about the Game of Thrones, especially the later seasons, the TV show, is that everyone just wore dark-coloured, nondescript leather outfits.
Cool and edgy.
Whereas the books talk about all of the fancy clothes and the jewelry and the colour and the crowns and all of the drip that the rulers had.
It looked like a party.
Yeah, and it's about the social status hierarchy.
Yeah.
You look at Aegon here, and it's like, okay, this person is important. He's a king, so I'm really glad that they capture some of that.
Look at his swagger too. Look at him go.
Well, he's kind of like he's got a little bit of a defense, like his head is tilted down a bit, and he's sort of side-eyeing everything. Like he looks not entirely sure of himself to me. Like he looks a little bit sullen. He looks a bit hungover, actually. He's probably hungover. And then we see Daemon Targaryen, the Rogue Prince.
He's taking his helmet that we saw in episode 1 of House of the Dragon.
Yeah. We previously saw Daemon bashing someone in the face with this helmet on the stepstones.
That's right, he wears it in that episode as well.
And we've also seen Daemon wearing this helmet at the tournament. This helmet is apparently made of Valyrian steel.
Which is ridiculous. Actually, is it the same helmet? This one has wings. Maybe he takes them off when it's just a display for the tourney.
Is it possible that the wings break off at some point, like on the stepstones?
Or maybe they break off on this guy's skull.
Oh man, you would not.
Actually,
well, if it's breaking off Valyrian steel, Valyrian steel would not break off very easily.
He's got a skull of Valyrian steel.
A skull of Valyrian steel.
Yeah, this guy's hardcore.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Well. The point is that Daemon is ready for war.
Yep, and check out his armor too.
Because he's been wanting a war
since
episode 1 of season 1.
And now his wife is finally like, yeah, all right, war it is.
Yeah, because that was the conflict in episode 10, wasn't it? That like Rhaenyra was trying to find a peaceful solution, trying to like connect with her old friend Alicent to avert this war, partly because of the responsibility of the prophecy that Viserys told her about, where, they need to unite Westeros against the White Walkers that are going to come one day. Whereas Daemon's like,
don't worry, Arya Stark will take care of it.
Exactly.
And so let's just do the war anyway.
Yeah.
He pays absolutely no heed to Viserys' portents and dreams. He says that Viserys was a slave to these things, and he doesn't care for any of that.
But I think part of why Daemon was so dismissive is because he didn't get included.
Oh, he was mega upset. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, maybe if Viserys had shown Daemon more trust, maybe Daemon would have been a little bit more responsible.
Not to spoil my diatribe from my video, which is coming out hopefully later today. Daemon learns in that moment when Rhaenyra posts leaks about Aegon's prophecy, he learns that Viserys never trusted him. Yeah. He was never Viserys' heir in his head. He was only, just that guy on the periphery.
Yeah.
Or at least that's how it feels to Daemon.
Yeah. So what does that mean for him in season 2? I mean, is he just going to be more of a loose unit if he doesn't get that trust that he wanted? I mean, it makes the relationship with Rhaenyra more important, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Like, if Daemon isn't acting as much out of loyalty to Viserys, then his relationship and loyalty to Rhaenyra is going to be even more important. But of course, that was like so under threat in episode 10, when Daemon choked Rhaenyra after finding out that he was not included.
Didn't get invited to the party, got mad about it.
So, Daemon is one of Rhaenyra's most important allies, not to mention her husband. But he attacks her, and he is dangerous and unreliable. So, like, this relationship is incredibly fraught. and important.
That's right. This is an image that's not included in the teaser, but it is like a promotional image for season 2.
Yeah, there are some new promotional shots that came out that are quite nice. I really like how Daemon's armor
It looks so cool.
Look at him.
It's probably impractical in some niche way that I'm too stupid to comprehend, but it looks so cool.
Well, he's sitting for a meal wearing gauntlets. How's he gonna cut his meat with those gauntlets?
He's got people for that.
Yeah, but we got some really nice shots in here that we will talk about as we go on.
Oh man, I haven't seen this one yet. That's so cool.
Aemond is just unbelievably cool.
He's so cool.
He looks like he's really growing and becoming more confident, you know?
I will discuss that as we move on with the trailer, which we are currently 10 seconds into.
We see a camp with a Targaryen banner. Looks like armies are on the move. Alicent says the war will be fought, many will die, and the victor will ascend the throne. So it seems as though peace is an impossibility and war is inevitable.
Yeah, in episode 9, Alicent was also clamoring for peace. She was going on about how we need to, negotiate a way for Rhaenyra to not declare war on us. Give her what she needs so that she can get away, and then we'll leave her alone forever. But that appears to be the lost resolution, and now war is the only way through.
Partly because of, Otto and Daemon and some of those more saber-rattling lords, and they all seem to relish the opportunity for war. I mean, it's like Rhaenys was saying in, episode 1, about how, it's been a long period of peace, and there are all these, young knights who want to prove themselves and win glory, and
they've forgotten the horrible bloodshed of war that characterized Jaehaerys, the old king's early reign.
Yeah.
I wonder who sent Aemond to Storm's End. Whose decision was it to send Aemond specifically to Storm's End?
Yeah.
Because that is sort of a catalyst for violence, no matter which way you spin it. I mean, only in the case where Luke shows up, I guess. But if Jace had been there, something could have happened as well.
Yeah. I wonder if he just did it of his own accord,
Well, he seemed to, have the diplomatic power to betroth himself to one of Boros's daughters.
Well, he believed that he did.
Yeah.
And one of the other interesting...
We shall see if that gets followed up on.
Yes. We also get to see Aemond looking at the Iron Throne hungrily in this trailer. Because Aemond made that interesting comment in episode 9 about how he considers himself next in line for the throne, which is not true, because King Aegon II has children.
Does he have 3 children in the show? Have we seen all of them? Yes, we have.
No, this is just a placeholder AI image of Maelor. But we have seen Aegon and Helena's twins, Jaehaera and Jaehaerys. And they do also have, at least according to the family tree thing in the intro, they do have 3 children.
That's right.
They do have 3 children. So, and all of these 3 children come before Aemond in line for the throne. So, Aemond has some overinflated ideas of his own importance. He wants the throne, despite the fact that Aegon and his children are ahead of him. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. We see all these armies on the move. We see a Hightower army, and they look very ready for war, don't they?
Professional, organized, uniform.
It's
rich. Look at all that plate.
Yeah, that doesn't come cheap.
And we've got the green flamed Hightower, which, as we learned in episode 5, is, their symbol of war.
Yeah, true. Because I think normally
armies are also a symbol of war, so it's a bit superfluous.
Very, very subtle, but it's there. Yeah, because the Hightower sigil is normally depicted with just a yellow or orange flame, but the green flame, maybe for their soldiers specifically, they have the green flame for war, so that's cool. And of course, the Hightowers are low-key one of the most fascinating houses in Westeros because they're so old, they're so rich, they run the biggest city of Old Town. And in the current main story, the Hightowers don't do much yet.
They're barely even mentioned.
They're barely mentioned in the main series, but there's all these little hints about how the Lord, it's Leighton Hightower,
is one of George's little fantasy characters that he likes hinting at all the spooky stuff going on with.
Yeah, because Leighton's into magic.
And he's up there with his crazy daughter, Melora the Mad Maid, and they're doing magic together, and they've been up there for a decade, and no one knows what's going on. It's very exciting, and now Sam's there, and God, I want to read the next Sam chapter.
And Euron is knocking on their door. So yeah, House Hightower is cool. It's so great being able to see them from different historical periods. So we see that an army here, a bunch of soldiers with the...
Rosby mentioned, get hype.
Yeah, this shield here with the red stripes is House Rosby, and this is with the lamb is House Stokeworth of Stokeworth.
These are houses that are both located very close to King's Landing in the Crown Lands.
Yeah, these are both fairly minor houses, but they are right outside King's Landing. So anyone who wants to have control of King's Landing is going to talk to these people. And so as of Season 1, we don't know if Rosby and Stokeworth are siding with... Rhaenyra or with Aegon.
We know that Rhaenyra has control over most of the rest of the Crownlands, or at least the north side. She has support from the Massies, the Darklands, the Celticars, Bar Emmons, another one.
Yeah, a bunch of the Crownlanders are siding with Rhaenyra, last we heard.
Yeah.
So maybe Stokeworth and Rosby will as well. Maybe they won't.
Maybe their proximity to the Greens-controlled King's Landing will sway them towards them, though.
Yeah. So it looks as though with all these armies and stuff, this will be one of the contested areas, is the Crown Lands around King's Landing. Fans of House Rosby will of course know Giles Rosby, who's the Lord of Rosby during the main series, who is most noted for his... Yeah, that's
everyone.
That's one of the best quotes from Giles Rosby. That's from Dance with Dragons chapter 5. He's on Cersei's ineffectual small council, and he's just sort of this useless lickspittle.
What banners are back there in the background? Is that the Greens banner, a golden dragon on a green field?
Yeah, I suppose it must be.
It could be.
Because like one of the problems with this war is that both sides are on House Targaryen, which makes it difficult to tell who's on whose side. So the Greens,
that really does look like the Greens banner. Yeah.
Yeah, the Targaryen dragon in yellow on green. So that is Aegon, Aegon and Alicent's side.
We solved the mystery.
So this suggests that Stokeworth and Rosby have joined Aegon,
which makes sense.
Yeah,
it would make sense either way, really.
I mean, it's interesting that these shields are all bloody. That's a lot of blood on these shields, actually. How many people are they bashing with their shields? My God. So yeah, it looks like war is happening in the Crown Lands. Get hype. Oh, and while we're talking about the Stokeworths, the Stokeworths are involved in the main series through Lollys Stokeworth. So you'll remember that Bronn does he marry, or is he just engaged to marry?
They're betrothed. They never actually marry.
Yeah. And so in the books, there's a bit more of a plotline about the Stokeworths, how Lady Tanda Stokeworth, Lollys's mother, there's this whole thing where like Cersei uses Bronn. No, well, Bronn's working for Tyrion. I can't even remember exactly what goes down, but like Bronn gets Lord Stokeworth killed so that Bronn can take over Stokeworth.
Yeah.
It's a whole thing. And
Cersei thinks this is good for Cersei, but it turns out to not be good for Cersei, which is a bit of a recurring theme.
Yeah, you've described most of A Feast for Crows. So yeah, it's cool to see the Stokeworths and the Rosbys. Who's next?
That's Otto Hightower. He's the Hand of the King and the brother of Lord Hobart Hightower.
Accurate
the
and
Lord
true.
Of Oldtown. That's Queen Alicent Hightower. Queen Mother Alicent Hightower.
Important distinction. Yeah, I adore Olivia Cook's expression here.
She's got so many great faces.
Yeah, she's
just brilliant.
She's fantastic. And I love like the sense of just cynicism that you get from Alicent
right there.
now.
That's going viral on Twitter as we speak.
That's fantastic. Because like she was so fresh-faced and so well-intentioned, like a prim proper Hermione Granger when she was younger, played by Emily Carey.
Emily Carey has some great snarky faces as well.
She does. But just that character change as she's become hardened and as she's become sort of corrupted by people like Larys and Kristen and her father Otto. She is so just cynical now.
It makes me wonder like how a young Cersei Lannister would have looked and behaved before she became so jaded by Robert Baratheon's mistreatment of her.
I would love to like read a novella about the young Lannisters, about like young
That sounds so
Cersei,
interesting.
young Jaime, young Tyrion, and with like their uncles Geryon and Tigget around.
And their dickhead dad.
Yeah, and like Tywin's relationship with his dad, Tytos. I've always felt that the Lannisters are the best characters in A Song of Ice and Fire. They're just so messed up and so charismatic and so awful and so great. I love it. Boats.
We love us some boats.
Kristen Cole has had a bit of a haircut.
He now actually looks like he's aged.
And
in
you
the
know what
series.
else? He has the necklace of hands by the looks of it. Is that the necklace of hands? Yeah, that's the necklace of hands. So you'll remember that a similar hand necklace was used by Tyrion Lannister to murder Shay in Game of Thrones season 4.
I've never seen Game of Thrones, so...
I've heard it's good.
Who?
Yeah, see that necklace of hands?
Well, I did
Actually,
not
no,
pick
that's
up on this.
that's a different necklace. That's not the necklace of hands.
Is that the chain of gold?
Yeah, that's just a chain of gold. But you can trust me when I say that there is a
Just trust me, bro.
source. I made it up. No, yeah, there is this necklace of hands that represents being Hand of the King. So that is what is suggested by that necklace. Kristen, of course, has undergone quite a dramatic journey from a seemingly noble white knight
Yeah.
into a murderer. An angry murderer who's really pissed off that Rhaenyra sort of messed him around by having sex with him and then rejecting him and breaking his Kingsguard oaths. And now he is Alicent's foremost attack dog, and it looks like Alicent is using him to full effect. We see Kristen beheading someone here.
Who is that?
We can speculate.
Shall we?
But not without spoiling, I think.
Okay.
I think we can have an idea of who it is. We might do a brief spoiler corner at the end of this live stream to talk about some of that stuff. But yeah, it looks like Kristen is out killing Aegon and Alicent's enemies. I love that.
Yeah, we've got the spinny balls.
I love the council balls. They are cool little visual motifs.
It's good to see that they'll be continued to be utilized throughout the show instead of just, that one thing in season 1.
I want to see all the creative ways that balls are used in Hot Day, because I thought it was cool how Lyman Beesbury was killed by Kristen Cole by bashing his head into one of these stone council balls.
I liked the execution, the method. I didn't really care for the tone. Like that scene has issues that we shall not discuss at this moment.
Yeah. I've been saying all season that I am waiting to see one of those council balls roll into a puddle of blood on the table.
Yeah.
Like, that's got to happen at some point. Leaving a trail of blood behind it as it rolls, maybe. But yeah, Aegon is on the throne. He doesn't look like he wants to be there or should be there. He's looking a bit scary and evil. What kinds of decisions is he going to make as the most powerful man in Westeros? This awful person.
He's going to ban beats. And this is directly contrasted with Rhaenyra in her crown on her. It doesn't really look like a throne. It's a seat. It's a chair.
But she's looking really sort of optimistic.
Oh my
It's
God.
a funny face.
Those are the coolest shoulder pads I have ever seen.
I've got some just like them. Yeah, no, she's got some great drip going on here. I like a necklace as well. I wonder if there's any significance to that necklace. Because I remember Daemon gives Rhaenyra a Valyrian steel
It's
necklace
different.
in season 1. But yeah, it's different, isn't it? You know what that looks a bit like?
Go on.
That looks a bit like the Night King's little jewelry.
Who?
What, Mr. First Name Knight, Second Name King. See how it's a down arrow?
I guess.
It's pointing down, and that's pointing down.
I suppose it's one of the 4 directions it could have been going.
Is Rhaenyra the Night King?
No, we talked about this. It's Aemond.
Aemond is... Well, he does have blue eyes, doesn't he?
Yeah. He's always had blue eyes. Actually, no, he hasn't. He's the one character who's... Oh no, George has written a few characters whose eye colours change.
Isn't that a line from season 8? I've
Yeah.
always had blue eyes.
Yes, Tormund.
That last half, yeah. We know too much about this series, I think.
We've thought about this for too long.
And of course, I really like the crown symbolism in Hot D. Because in the books, there's lots of attention given to the specific crowns and their symbolism. Because, Aegon is wearing the crown of Aegon the Aegon the Conqueror, who took over Westeros for the Targaryens. It's a crown made of Valyrian steel or iron, depending on who you ask. But it represents a more sort of warlike, conquering vibe, whereas
it's embossed. It's it's got rubies in it to signify like Targaryen specific power, right?
and blood.
Yeah. Whereas, as you were about to say,
So whereas Rhaenyra is wearing her father Viserys' crown, which was previously worn by King Jaehaerys, his grandfather, and that represents more peace and unity. You can see that it's got the Tully sigil there and all the different great houses sigils, and so it represents a more sort of like unified, representative, let's all work together, Seven Kingdoms type vibe. Very different to the warlike, angry, bloody
and so
Aegon crown.
Aegon the Conqueror conquered the Seven Kingdoms, and Jaehaerys the Conciliator, unified. He kept them together. So it's just emblematic of the characteristics of both of their reigns.
Yeah. So what will win out, peace or war? Alicent blows out a flame.
Happy birthday.
Like she wants to snuff out Rhaenyra's flame, perhaps? Yeah, it's a candle. HBO original series returns. I'm not sure if TV networks know what the word original means.
We made this
Because this is a adaptation
of
a book that's based on another book that's based on the English anarchy that happened 600... This is a 600-year-old story.
The anarchy happened more than 600 years ago.
When was it?
It was the late 12th century or early... What was it? The early 12th century.
Yeah, so they're about 800 years late from originality, I feel, but nonetheless. Now this is an interesting
it's your chin
shot.
shot that you wanted to talk about.
Yeah, we did some chin comparison on the internet to figure this out. I'm not 100% sure who this character is, but based on chin math and based on speculation on the internet, I think this is actor Clinton Liberty playing the character Adam of Hull. It's Adam, isn't it? Not Alan.
I believe so, yes.
And so we'll give you some mild sort of background information on this character. No big spoilers, but one of the sort of important things about this character is that this is said to be a bastard son of Laenor Velaryon. So Laenor Velaryon, you'll remember, is the son of Corlys Velaryon, and Laenor was married to Rhaenyra, and Laenor was the supposed father of Jace, Luke, and Joff, even though those children were actually fathered by Harwin. And Laenor is gay, and he was in a relationship with Joffrey, and then in a relationship with Carl. And then Rhaenyra faked Laenor's death, and Laenor went east, so that everyone thinks that Laenor is dead, but he's actually alive in the east, which is a change from the books.
The story's so simple.
Right? And so then, this character... Adam's going to turn up and say, hey, I am a bastard son of Laenor.
And no one's going to believe him.
It would be a bit odd if this homosexual man had a bunch of bastards. I mean, possible, I suppose, but it surprises some people.
He was a fan of the sperm banks.
It surprises some people. So we will find out more about this character and his role, and we see this character looking up at a dragon.
And that dragon is... You say that probably sea smoke.
Yeah.
I think it's definitely sea smoke. You say it's probably sea smoke. We'll agree to disagree.
Well, to me, one blurry lizard looks much like the other, but I'll trust your eagle eye.
Nah, that's definitely sea smoke. You can tell from the pixels.
So there's a bunch of dragons in this story, and one of the things that was discussed in the previous season was that the Blacks, which is Rhaenyra's side, has a bunch more dragons than the Greens, which is Aegon's side. Because on Dragonstone, there's a bunch of dragons that don't currently have riders. And one of the things the Blacks want to do is get riders for these free dragons. So we saw Daemon come and say hello to Vermithor, who was once the dragon of King Jaehaerys, and Silverwing, his queen. All these free dragons that they're going to want to find riders for is one of the things that's going on. So
with such alluring names as Cannibal.
Who
wants to ride the Cannibal?
What could possibly go wrong? I mean, I guess you'd feel safer with a cannibal dragon because it doesn't eat humans; it eats dragons.
I think it'll eat whatever, mate.
So we see what appears to be sea smoke, but of course, I mean, there's a lot of interesting questions about sea smoke, aren't there? Because, you know, if in the TV show Lenore is still alive, will Sea Smoke bond with a new rider if Sea Smoke is still bonded to Lenore? Is it possible that Sea Smoke will want to find Lenore, you know? Like, because Lenore really loved Sea Smoke, and we saw him riding Sea Smoke and going yeehaw, and so so it would be interesting.
Yeah,
To see how
I
they play
contend
it.
that like every piece of evidence we have points towards dragons with living riders being unable to bond with other humans.
Yeah. So I think one thing that people have speculated is that, you know, if Sea Smoke does bond with a new rider, that would
It
suggest that
means
Lenore's dead.
dead.
Which
Yeah.
could be like a really beautiful, tragic moment for Rhaenyra,
Yeah.
going like, oh, like I went to all this effort to try and free Lenore from
Yeah.
this political mess, but he's just gone and died.
I think that could be a really great moment.
Yeah.
Ryan, if you're listening, you're allowed to steal that.
Yeah, you can have that one for free, Ryan.
Yeah.
When's-
I'm sure I would have thought of it.
When's Ryan going to come on the show, huh?
Yeah, huh? Ryan?
Come on, Ryan. What are you afraid of? We'll ask you nice
Too
questions.
busy on your podcast about movie props? No,
There
that's
are
cool.
there are a lot of good props in this,
Yeah.
actually. With the love for the helmet,
I
you
like
can see
this,
all that.
this staff, actually, that Adam's got.
Yeah, for a moment, it reminded me of the Dragon Keepers
Yeah,
and their
yeah.
staffs. So I wonder if we might speculate that he wants a little dragon stick so that he can use it to prod dragons with, just like the pro Dragon
a,
Keepers do.
A keen observation.
Yes. Well, I know a stick when I see one.
Can't tell a dragon.
So we see this army marching, and those with keen eyes might notice that this is in fact a Darkland army, or at least has some Darklands in it. Darklands of Duskendale is another minor house in the Crownlands. Because if we zoom right on in, we can see
Get
that
right on in
this
there.
is the Darkland sigil. Trust me. I shit you not.
Verified facts.
I can pull up the Darkland sigil.
And the Darklands are extinct by the time of the main series.
Yeah, the Darklands did a bit of an oopsie by kidnapping King Aerys Targaryen the Mad, which was a crime that was not forgiven. Those particular frames, you can't see it, but it is the Darklands.
Their blood does survive on in, of course, the most noble of characters, Sir Dontos Hollard.
Yes, ever reliable Dontos. And, you know, Barristan Selmy, like, part of his backstory is that he saved the Mad King from Duskendale.
Which is a
and-
morally neutral thing to do.
Yeah, George sure does love his morally fraught
Uninteresting
actions.
thing.
Yeah. And yeah, as we were saying, we will answer most of the super chats towards the end of the live stream. Thank you so much for all the super chats.
Yeah,
we
we'll
appreciate them very
get to
much,
them.
and we will get to them towards the end of the live stream. And yeah, just a reminder that we're not doing any big plot spoilers in this live stream, so don't worry about that. We're just doing some sort of background info and some sort of non-spoilery stuff about what's to come.
We're just having a chat, really.
We're just having a good old yak.
I love this line.
There is no war so hateful to the gods as a war between kin, and no war so bloody as a war between dragons. I think that is what Ryan Condal told HBO to convince them to greenlight this series. Because this is what George is all about. He just loves the drama of a war amongst family, and he loves the violence and excitement of a war between dragons. And that's what this is. It's just the maximum amount of
Both of those
carnage
things.
and emotion that you
Yeah.
can possibly wring from a story. So that's what the dance is all about. We get to see the painted table with Rhaenyra
So many candles.
planning her war. This is a funny little symbol that she's got on the painted table, isn't it? That
Is that the same symbol as a necklace there? I don't think it is.
uh,
It's similar.
let's pull up the necklace.
No, it's not.
Yeah, I don't think it's. It looks like a raven skull. That does look like the bloody Night King's thing.
It does, but that's so weird.
I assume it's a coincidence, but you know.
If after all this time it turns out that the Night King actually is a character from this era of Targaryen history, I'm going to lose my mind.
Look, we know that time travel is a thing in this series, so it's not all that far-fetched.
Not like physical, permanent, oh, I'm in the past now sort of time travel.
And yet, they've got a very similar taste in jewelry. What does that tell you, huh? It's even got like the thing within the thing design, you know?
Which is, of course, unique to this necklace.
That's pretty similar.
It is really similar.
That's very similar.
Oh, no.
No?
No, this is more kite-shaped and it, like, diverts, like, a quarter of the way down, whereas this one, it's like, inverted.
Well, this one has little dangly bits on it as well.
Yeah,
the Night King
and this
lacks
one's
the
got a
dangly bits.
circle around it.
Completely different. It also reminds me of Brienne's armor in Season 8.
Yeah, which is a raven skull.
Which is a raven skull, and which also looks quite a lot like that.
But, of course, Bran is the Night King, so...
It all
makes
connects.
sense, yeah.
Bran is the Night King and is Rhaenyra. Don't tell me that's not weird.
It's a little weird.
It's even got like the little dangly bits, doesn't it? Those dangly bits.
Oh, those are like the raven's ribs, feathers, legs.
Body?
Ravens don't have that many legs.
Yeah, it kind of looks like ribs, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah,
It's
extremely.
like the branches of a weirwood tree.
Yeah, well, I can't wait to get a closer look at some of that jewelry later on. And yeah, all those symbols also look vaguely like this thing. But yeah, they'll be planning their war. They'll be figuring out who are their allies, who are their enemies. It might not be the Night King.
I've decided that is Eric Cargill behind Rhaenyra there.
Yeah.
And not Eric, because that would make no sense.
So quick Kingsguard reminder.
Kingsguard update.
Kingsguard hour. Do you want to go through the Kingsguard corner?
Right,
Spelt with
so
two Ks.
in the very first scene of House of the Dragon, we see... Oh, God, I've forgotten his name. The Kingsguard who was the Lord Commander...
Ryan Redwine?
Ryan Redwine. Ryan Redwine. Who died, and then Harold Wesley became the Lord Commander after him. And he... just stormed off in the middle of episode 9. He just like got up and left, and we don't know where he went. So that's one of the Kingsguard, and three of the others, Laurent Marbrand, Stefan Darkland, and Eric Cargill, are with the Blacks, with Rhaenyra on Dragonstone. Kristen Cole and Eric Cargill with the Greens in King's Landing, pledged to Aegon. And the seventh Kingsguard slot, there are always 7 Kingsguard. We don't know if Harold Westling is still a Kingsguard, so they might have another one to fill. But the 7th Kingsguard was never really revealed to us in House of the Dragon Season 1. But there are 2 people from the books that it could be. And, oh god, I've forgotten their names. One of them's... I noted it in my video and it's escaped my mind, because it's not that important to me. But there are 2 folks that it could be.
We can look that up if we so feel.
If we so feel. Eric Cargill and Eric Cargill are identical twins, and they're played by identical twins in the show, Luke Teddensaw and Elliot
You're thinking
Teddensaw.
of Willis Fell.
Willis Fell, yes, that's one of them. And
Marston Waters.
No, that's later.
Yeah.
Rickard Thorne.
Rickard Thorne.
Rickard Thorne, who is a distant relative of Alyssa Thorne from Game of Thrones.
The Game of the Throne. Thank you. This was the Kingsguard Corner with Glidus.
Da-da-da-da-da.
Corlys, he's had an interesting few years.
Yeah, he's been around and back.
His family seems to be dying off one by one. That's upsetting.
It seems to be basically an indirect result of things he's done.
Yeah, because his wife Rhaenys keeps telling him, "Hey, Corlys, can we please not be so involved in politics because it keeps getting our family killed?"
Seems to be murdering our children.
But Corlys is like, "No, it's really important that I have a legacy."
Well, in the scene before this, Corlys decided, yeah, you know what, we've gone too far, and I've got nothing to show for it. We're going to retire to Driftmark, and we're not going to... We'll declare for no one, and just live out our lives and ignore this. And Rhaenys is like, that's crazy. We are in too deep now. And then in the next scene, Corlys looks at Rhaena and Baela, his only surviving descendants, and they're standing next to Jace and Luke. Like, they're fully entangled in Rhaenyra's family. There is no way out for the Velaryons except through this war with Rhaenyra.
Yeah. So Corlys kind of did the worst possible thing, which is that he got his family involved to the hilt and then realized that it was a terrible idea and tried to back out, but it was too late. So, like, what position does that leave him in now? Like, is he going to be sort of defensive and trying to find an out for his family, or is he going to be like, okay, let's just end this as quickly and brutally as possible to just finish it, or like, or how about we all just pack up and sail back to Valyria? Like, what are the options here for
Sail back
Corlys?
to Valyria.
Because remember, the important facts about Corlys is that he's a great sea voyager. He's been all over the world. He's fabulously rich.
He's a self-made man.
Self-made man, very
From his position of nobility.
yes, very arrogant and confident. They have the dragon. Well, the Targaryens have the dragon-riding blood, but the Velaryons just have the Valyrian blood, but not dragon-riding Valyrian blood. Complicated genetics. But his children, through his marriage to Rhaenys, have the Targaryen dragon-riding blood. So that's how his children, Laenor and Laena, were able... We should probably pull up the bloody family tree. Laenor and Laena were able to ride dragons, Vhagar and Seasmoke, and Laena's children with Daemon can ride dragons. Baela has the dragon Moondancer. Rhaena does not yet have a dragon. That was your Velaryon dragon update. So yeah, interested to see what Corlys does next.
Yeah.
Daemon.
He's working out. He's working his his biceps and his delts at the same time.
He's really going for it. That looks like quite a good dance, actually. So there's a weirwood tree in the background. We've seen a weirwood tree in King's Landing. There are weirwood trees in many castles around Westeros. Some of them have been burned or cut down at various points. So this really could be a lot of different places.
To our knowledge, Dragonstone doesn't have one.
Yeah.
Or rather, to our lack of knowledge, we don't know if it does. It seems like it shouldn't, but it might, I guess.
Well,
King's Landing does.
Does Melisandre burn a weirwood at Dragonstone in Book 2?
Oh, in the books. Jeez.
Because she burns the statues of the Seven.
Yeah.
I think she may also burn a weirwood there. I can't remember. But yeah, there's a lot of different places this weirwood could be. But I mean, in the culture of the First Men and the Old Gods, they often execute people in front of weirwoods. Like Bran has a vision of some ancient person, and it's got these sort of undertones of sacrifice to the gods, and the gods are watching through the heart tree's eyes, and so it may be the Daemon's executing someone here. It'll be really interesting to see like what role magic and prophecy and stuff play in this series.
And that's really interesting because Daemon is like the character who's probably at least inclined towards all of that. Like he says to Rhaenyra, dreams didn't make us kings, dragons did. Like he's completely uninterested in all of this prophecy and religion and god stuff. He's interested in his own power.
And yet he's got that dragon blood.
Yeah, and he's obsessed with the legacy of Valyria.
Yeah.
So he's got that conflict in him. He's got that dog in him. He's got that dragon in him,
Yeah, and he wields Darksister, that ancient Valyrian blade, and he rides the dragon. And so I think whether he likes it or not, he is connected to that legacy and that magic. And so, yeah, it'll be really fascinating if magic plays more of a role with him. And of course, Rhaenyra knows about her prophecy. And there's all the speculation about Larys maybe being connected to the old gods. And, the role of magic could potentially be interesting.
He appears to be beheading someone there, by the way. We didn't make that clear.
Yeah, it looks like it. Aemond, we talked about this, looking at the Iron Throne hungrily. He seems to think that he's next in line. I like that there's lightning happening. There's like a storm happening.
How does that work?
Which reminds us of the storm at Storm's End, when Aemond accidentally killed Luke with his dragon. So I wonder if that sort of storm thing is going to continue to be like a motif with Aemond.
Yeah.
I mean, Vhagar, his dragon, the biggest dragon in Westeros, is quite a force of nature herself, So I think the storm is quite a nice...
Aemond is like constantly contending with the forces of nature.
And he has a very stormy personality as well. He's like beneath the surface. He's raging.
It's a very English teacher sort of way of looking at this.
I learned everything I know from Year 9 lit class.
I really like it. It sort of reminds me of the shots of Daenerys when she first sees the Iron Throne in season 8.
Yeah.
Mainly through the blue coloring, which we don't typically see in King's Landing.
Yeah, true. The throne room is normally like this warm space.
Yeah, it's got this orange color temperature to it, whereas this, it's very similar in color.
Yeah. Yeah, well, maybe it sort of deliberately evokes this sort of devastation around the throne that we eventually see, which, was caused by a dragon, so we're reminded of how a dragon can be destructive and how war can lead to all manner of unpleasantness, such as Game of Thrones Season 8.
You don't say. This is an interesting one.
It sure is. Where's this?
It appears to be in the north somewhere. These people wearing what appear to be black cloaks, so they could be Night's Watch recruits, but those people in the middle there look very small and young, or it might just be the comparison because the people on the sides are on horses. But yeah, it looks very cold. There's tall growth trees there, so it's in, old unkempt place. It really makes me think it is the north, and we know Jace is going to the north to try and win Cregan Stark's allyship for his mother, so I don't know.
Yeah, I agree with that. I like the idea that these could be recruits. It would be really cool to see the Night's Watch in better times, because the Night's Watch has been in decline for centuries by the time of the main series. They have far fewer people. They are far less respected than they used to be as an institution.
No one takes them seriously. When Cersei hears petitions to, help the Night's Watch at all, she's like, lol?
Yeah.
No.
But there was a time when they were respected a bit more. Wasn't, Jaehaerys and his queen, Alysanne, didn't they make an effort to supply the Night's Watch with more men and resources?
Yeah, and that was only 2 generations before this.
Yeah.
It's a long time ago, but not that long.
Yeah, so it'd be really cool to see the Night's Watch as a more powerful, respected institution, and the things that might have been going on there. Because, the other thing about the Night's Watch decline is that they have lost knowledge, Like Jill Mormont complains that, we should have known that Dragonglass can kill White Walkers. We should have, had all these patrols and all this information, because supposedly the Night's Watch was founded some 8,000 years ago for the purpose of defending Westeros against the White Walkers, apparently. But there's all sorts of mysteries around.
Well, the way it plays out in the main series is they think that they're defending Westeros from the wildlings.
Yeah.
So they've completely lost that.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, they've basically forgotten their purpose entirely by the time of the main series. So, given that the House of the Dragon show has introduced these ideas like Aegon the Conqueror had a dream about the White Walkers and that's why he wants to conquer Westeros, I wonder if the Night's Watch may also have some sort of more information and more knowledge about their purpose and about the White Walkers, and we could learn more about all of that. I love all the mysteries about the Night Fort and the Black Gate and all of that stuff.
And I think Jace talking to Cregan would be a great avenue to explore some of these things about an older North.
Yeah. Learning about Northern politics in this era could be fascinating. The Starks before Ned, before...
It's just going to be so great to meet another Stark,
Yeah, absolutely. One of George Martin's other little series is the Dunk and Egg Tales, which is also being adapted into a TV show right now. And there are 3 Dunk and Egg stories, but one of the upcoming Dunk and Egg stories, because...
that's such a strong word.
I know. But George Martin has plans to write additional Dunk and Egg stories, one of which is set in Winterfell in the north. And he almost finished it, apparently. It's called She-Wolves of Winterfell is the working title. And it's about a northern inheritance dispute for Winterfell. So this is in the time period in between House of the Dragon and the main Game of Thrones series. I just really enjoy seeing these familiar places and families in different time periods. It's really fun.
Yeah, it's the excitement you get when you meet the Lannister twins in season 1 of House of the Dragon. Oh my god, that guy becomes Jaime.
Yeah, I wonder if there's a Lannister genetic predisposition for twins.
Absolutely, there is. There are more Lannister twins than the general population per capita, and I think that is actually consistent with real world genetics, where twins occur more in families where twins occur.
Is that right?
I believe so.
So, there's some genetic predisposition for fetuses to go bloop. That's the technical definition, isn't it? Bloop. Our next shot is of Alicent.
Oh, this shot's so crazy. Look at that.
White dress, looking so pale and ethereal, and there's fog in the background. Where is this, Glidus?
This is in Middle-earth somewhere, it would appear.
Yeah, that was my feeling. She just looks so pensive and not of this world. Yeah, my thought seeing this was the God's Eye Lake.
Yeah, but like, how does Alicent wind up there near Harrenhal?
I mean, it's very weird for her to be like standing out in the open during
It's weird
this.
for her to not be in the Red Keep ever.
Yeah, exactly. Because if she's standing out in the open, it's entirely possible that a bloody dragon is going to come down and scoop her up.
Yeah,
right?
and in episode 10, Daemon says that he's going to take Harrenhal.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, I mean, I kind of like the idea that it's the God's Eye, but it doesn't really make any sense for Alicent to be
I
out
don't know
there.
where else it could be. It's not the Blackwater. Or it doesn't feel like it should be the Blackwater.
And could it be Blackwater Bay? Like, I guess it could be the bay.
Doesn't the city back onto the bay though? Like where's the city?
Like maybe she's a bit down the way.
Like
I mean,
on the Kingswood.
she could be near Rosby or something. But yeah, so it's very odd. So I think our feeling is that this might be a dream.
Yeah.
Which could be a really interesting way to explore her feelings and stuff, because like in the Game of Thrones books, there are constantly dreams and visions that give us all sorts of insights into how characters are feeling, and like visions of the future and fears and doubts. It happens all the time in the books, and they almost never did dreams in the show. So it would be really fitting if they used some dream sequences in the show.
Especially given how the meaning of dreams was emphasized in the first season.
Yeah, because Viserys had the dream that he would have a son, and that motivated him to have his wife cut open, and all the horrors that followed. And Helena Targaryen says all these little prophecies that are probably connected to Targaryen dragon dreams, because the Targaryens have this sort of genetic predisposition to prophetic visions. And I mean, you know, if you'll allow me to be speculative
What if
for
I
a
don't?
moment.
What if I don't allow you?
For a moment, the Hightowers, right? Alicent is of House Hightower. In the books, if I remember correctly, the Hightowers are described as being blonde and having those sorts of Valyrian features. Do they have those purple eyes as well?
I think that's more of a Dane thing. I don't know if eyes are really got into about the Hightowers.
Yeah, no, I don't think the eyes are mentioned, but they do have silver gold hair and pale skin. Lynesse Hightower, who was Jorah's wife, looked like Daenerys Targaryen. And Alarie Hightower has silver hair, even though she's not old enough to have like white hair. Jaehaerys, in the books, Old King Jaehaerys confused our Alicent, for his daughter Sarah Targaryen, who had the pale hair. Which
he was a dying old man at the time. So grain of salt.
Yeah, maybe that doesn't tell us so much, but I think based on the sort of vague information in the books, it sounds as though the Hightowers look like Targaryens, or at least have the silver gold hair. And the reason why I think that matters potentially is that the Hightowers live in Old Town,
all the way over here.
Which is also near Starfall. And Starfall, the Danes have that gold hair. And they also have purple eyes. Even though the books say they are not Valyrian, they are like First Men or something.
Yep.
But there's also the High Tower in Old Town.
Were there long before the Targaryens came to Westeros.
Yeah, so we have these like blonde people before the Targaryens. And we also have the Hightower Blackstone First Fort, which appears to have been made by dragons, but not by the Targaryens, and not by the Valyrians.
There's a legend of dragons roosting on Battle Isle before the Hightowers conquered it and started Old Town.
Yeah. So in Hightower HQ, there's evidence of ancient dragons before the Valyrians.
And they've got silver gold hair.
And the Danes have silver gold hair and the purple eyes.
And if you consider that before the Arm of Dawn was shattered, if you were going to like sail along the southern coast of this continent and Dawn is a desert, the first place you would land is Starfall, and then the whisper, that sound whose name I've forgotten.
Or you could fly.
The whispering sound. Yeah.
Because the Game of Thrones World Book also talks about the Great Empire of the Dawn, which were dragon riders, probably because they built the first forts. So dragon riders before the Valyrians. There's hints that someone taught the Valyrians how to ride dragons. And so there's a lot of speculation that there was this ancient Eastern Empire that rode dragons before the Valyrians. And I think based on the hints of the Hightower and the Danes and all of that, they may have been here. And so the Hightowers with their blonde hair and the Danes with their blonde hair and purple eyes may be like the ancestors, the distant ancestors of these ancient dragon riders, which is an incredibly roundabout way of saying maybe Alicent and Otto and the Hightowers have a little drop of that like ancient dragon rider magic blood And maybe they have a touch of that dragon dreaming, prophetic vision ability. And that would connect with Leighton Hightower, who we mentioned earlier, right? Like
And their
Leighton,
connection to magic.
Leighton and Mad Melora have a connection to magic. And so it's plausible, I think, that the Hightowers also have a bit of that magic blood. And therefore, it makes a kind of bit of additional sense that Alicent might have some kind of prophetic dreams. That was quite speculative, but it's a fun idea.
I've never seen a more succinct summary of all of that nonsense.
Yeah, I've had a bit of practice trying to explain that one.
It's so it's really convoluted.
Yeah, I'm trying very hard to make this easy to understand.
Yeah.
So yeah, Alicent obviously has been through a lot, and is probably going to go through more. Like season 1 is very much about her relationship with Rhaenyra, who was her BFF. But they became estranged because Rhaenyra lied about having sex with Kristen Cole, and Alicent married her dad.
Which was sort of uncool in Rhaenyra's eyes.
A bit not great, and Otto sort of groomed Alicent as this, political figure, and her son Aegon. And ultimately she sort of convinced herself that King Viserys' dying wish was for her son Aegon to be king, and she started relying on people like Larys and Kristen, who are murderers and not great dudes. And so, Alicent, despite all that, did try to figure out a peaceful resolution to this conflict with Rhaenyra in the final episodes of Season 1, but alas, that does not seem to be working out. So I guess some of the questions are, is peace still possible between Rhaenyra and Alicent? Like, what love is still there? If they could just talk to each other, what might result? Those are some of the questions. Peace, violence, love, hate. She wants to protect her children. What's going to happen next?
A war between kin.
A war between kin. Rhaenyra is looking angry.
Got old Cyrax behind her there.
Facing off with another dragon.
Now, this is a really interesting one because it looks like the color palette makes me think that it's Sea Smoke, that other dragon there. But Sea Smoke is, supposedly an ally of the Blacks, as much as a dragon can be counted on for, their alliance. But it's bigger than Cyrax, and in show canon, Cyrax is older than Sea Smoke, or at least should be if it correlates to the age of their riders.
I mean, if we assume that the dragon hatched at the same time that the baby was born, which is not necessarily
It's somewhat
true.
of an assumption.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, maybe some dragons are just bigger than others, Caraxes is a funny sausage noodle.
That's true.
Maybe dragons are just different sometimes.
Maybe Cyrax is just a little small girl.
Yeah, maybe Sea Smoke's just real hungry.
Yeah. Or maybe it's not Sea Smoke.
Well, yeah, I mean, that head... Sea Smoke has a hilarious face.
Yeah.
And big curvy horns, and I don't see that.
Yeah, true.
Here.
I mean, who else could it be? Could it be Silverwing?
Yeah, maybe it's Silverwing. Because Silverwing was the dragon of Good Queen Alicent.
And this does look somewhat silver.
It does look very silver.
And who is this person in front of this dragon we're debating the identity of?
Yeah, it's
Hello.
definitely a person.
I can tell from the pixels that it's a person. They appear to be standing off against each other on this beach or sandbar, which we know there are some of near Dragonstone or on Dragonstone.
Yeah, it looks like an interesting meeting. Like, it looks like they're not about to murder each other. It looks like it might be more of a diplomatic meeting or sort of an uncertain confrontation. I mean, Sea Smoke makes a lot of sense because it's like she would be uncertain about Sea Smoke if Sea Smoke came back. Like, if her ex-husband came back, her dragon comes back, it's like, what is the loyalty of this dragon? What is the implication for my secret about Laenor being alive?
I mean, maybe that is Laenor.
Yeah, maybe Laenor just came right back and said, I changed my mind.
A lot of people think that Laenor could come back for the war.
Yeah.
Which would be insane.
Well, as I said, I mean, it is weird, the idea that Sea Smoke could be claimed by anyone else.
Yeah.
What if Rhaenyra just murders Laenor
Oh, yeah.
so that she can have Sea Smoke for her side?
That would be mental.
it would be fully mental. And again, like, these deviations from the books create some interesting possibilities. So.
I'm really excited to see the fate of Sea Smoke.
Yeah, me too. I just want to see his goofy face again.
This is a beautiful shot of King's Landing.
Yeah, we don't normally see this angle, do we? I remember in Game of Thrones episode 1, there's a sort of an unusual angle that we get
You mean from the side?
Yeah, well, like from the bay.
I quite like it.
We get like this shot, and you can see the ruined dragon pit.
Yep.
Over
and there's
here.
Is that Baelor's Sept behind it?
Yeah, it looks like a proto Baelor's Sept before they decided what it looked like.
Yeah.
And now we see, the dragon pit as it was before. ... So it's nice to see that shot at King's Landing. There's like a flying aerial shot almost. I wonder if this is a dragon flying towards the dragon pit.
I think it's just a mise en scène. Like, I just think it's...
A mise en who?
Well, it's an establishing shot of King's Landing. That's what I think it is. Because dragon shots are usually whoopier than this.
Yeah, well, it could increase in whoopage as it continues.
I suppose it could become whoopier as it goes on.
Who's this?
Honestly, couldn't tell you.
So, I think that this is Alice Rivers, played by, is it Gail Rankin, I think is her name, the actress?
Uncharacteristically, I've been caught off guard and don't know the actor.
Yeah, I think it's her. Her eye color is certainly the same.
Very much does look like it.
She's got some interesting stuff on her face by the looks of it. What's going on with her face? Are they scars? Are they wrinkles? It looks a bit like burn scars or something to me. It connects with her hair almost. Is it hair on her face?
Guess it could be.
And there's also things moving through the air around her. It looks like embers or ash or debris. Leaves flying through the wind.
Soot, snow, confetti.
Could it be
rice?
Could it be like leaves blown about by dragon wings, perhaps? So we won't tell you any big spoilers, but just to briefly introduce this character, Alice Rivers, is a bastard of House Strong, apparently. So you'll remember that House Strong is Harwin Strong and Laris Strong are the children of Lionel Strong, and Lionel Strong was handed the king, and Laris Strong is now the sort of master of whispers for Alicent, and Harwin Strong was the father of Jace, Luke, and Joffrey, Rhaenyra's kids, and so important family.
Lords of Harrenhal,
an old First Men family, which are the people with the blood of the Skin Changers and the Wargs, which is why the sort of Laris being magical potentially makes sense. And Alice is this mysterious Witch King. All right, everyone in the live chat is saying it's Helena. Could that be Helena? I thought it was Alice Rivers.
It doesn't look like
Yeah, it doesn't look like Helena to me. Is it Helena? Oh, I get her chin and her mouth looks similar. Her eyebrows look similar. People are saying it's Helena beneath a veil. Yeah. All right.
I could see that.
Well, the chat seems to think it's Helena.
Those are the same earrings. No, they're not.
Yeah, well, it's a very interesting shot.
Yeah.
Whoever it is.
Should we keep talking about Alice Rivers anyway?
Well, if she's not in the trailer.
Yeah.
Well, look, Alice Rivers is a cool bastard witch who we will learn more about. And everyone seems to think this is Helena. Well, let's talk about Helena then, shall we?
Who? No, Helena. I really liked Helena Targaryen, the queen of Aegon II, in the first season.
What do you love about Helena?
She doesn't take no guff from anyone. No, I really like that she's just so different from every other character. With her, unmitigated, just I'll blurt out a prophecy to you now. I don't know what it means. You don't know what it means. The audience is going to try to figure it out. It's just a lot of fun. and she's got this like sort of detached apathy about everything going. Like it's just I'm here, I guess. They made me marry my brother. We have some children. I guess I'm the queen now. Beware the beast beneath her. Oh my god. She's just a pure innocent soul who doesn't deserve any hardships ever.
She's a great contrast to most of the other characters.
She's innocent.
Because most of the other characters, like...
She hasn't done anything.
Yeah, that's so true, because every other character has blood on their hands, or just has made some terrible, awful decisions in their pursuit of love and power and, legacy, whereas Helena has done none of those things.
Yeah, and in her speech in episode 8, she talks about her marriage to Aegon, and she's like, look, this is my lot. I'm dealing with it.
Yeah. She showed a lot of awareness there. Like in the earlier episodes, Helena seemed to like not even necessarily be aware of what's happening around her most of the time. Whereas, in that moment, she's
acutely aware of what's going on.
Yeah, she like tells us that I'm aware that my husband, King Aegon, my husband brother, is awful. But I'm seeing the bright side.
You deal with it,
and I deal with it, and she's also magic.
Let's see how she continues to deal with it.
Yeah, what else will she have to deal with?
I really, really liked this.
Yeah, the dancing scene.
Yeah.
Very gorgeous.
Because, like, in the same way that Alicent and Rhaenyra have some distant love for each other, like, this showed that there could have been a nice connection between the next generation of this feud in the family.
Yeah.
A family feud, if you may.
Yeah, just like how the intergenerational hatred was passed down to the children, there was also some love that was passed down to the children, Like, at the same time that they passed down this awful feud, they also passed down a sort of an affection and the possibility that it could be rekindled. So I think they've done a good job of, like, giving us a sense of hope that, maybe it's possible that these guys could reconcile somehow and do a little boogie once more. So I mean, given that Helena
doesn't seem too happy here.
Seems to have these prophecies. Yeah, she does not look too happy.
You know what? Those creases, wrinkles on her face really do. It does make sense that it's a veil. Like, I can see that now.
Yeah, it's weird. It's so thin and so transparent that it looks like it's like part of her skin. Yeah. It's a very...
When I first saw this shot, I was like, wait, are we underwater?
Yeah. Yeah, it's a very strange, dreamy shot, which fits a very strange, dreamy character. I wonder what will happen with Helena next. Because I mean, she's also she's well. I mean, Hottie has. Yeah. I mean, like in the books, Helena is not a magic person as far as we know. Like Helena having dreams and visions is an invention of the show. So, even those of us who have read the books and know the basic things that are going to happen, we don't know the details and the specifics, which are often just as important as the big things.
Given that she does have some foresight into the future, whatever happens to Helena next, she probably sort of has some idea of already.
Yeah.
Which is just terrible.
And like, the whole way that dreams work in this series is that often characters follow their dreams and their visions and they try to fulfill their prophecies. They try and make them come true, but they often find out that it comes true in a different way than what they expected, often with tragic and disastrous results, which I think is basically a metaphor or a device to explore ambitions and dreams and hopes and the consequence of following your ambitions and dreams and hopes. And so Helena is kind of an interesting contrast to that, because so far she is not a character who really pursues dreams and hopes. She's like her visions are just something that she just has, and she just sort of mutters them for other people to hear, which I guess makes her more similar to characters like Patchface, who's another character who doesn't really do much, but he just says these prophetic things for other characters to be disturbed by, or really the reader. I mean, the reader reacts to Patchface's prophecies more.
Everyone else is like, that goofy little guy.
So I guess one of the other questions is, like, will anyone listen to Helena's prophecies this season? Or will she continue to be mostly ignored?
Throughout season 1, she has been shown to be ignored basically all the time.
Yeah.
Like, when she was telling her mother cool facts about this millipede, she just was like, yep.
Imagine not being interested in Helena's millipede facts. That's just outrageous. So
Can't believe it.
We love Helena, and we'll see what happens next. We got a drum.
Boom, boom.
Something's happening here. We got some riders. This definitely looks like... that looks like a Kingsguard knight, doesn't it?
It Sure does. That's a white cloak. Yep.
Kingsguard Knight riding
even
through
be
the
Kristen.
forest. Could be a battle, could be a messenger, could be a secret mission.
There's one dripped out horse.
We won't spoil anything too important, but we do see a battle. Do we see any particular heraldry here? I don't think we
I'm
do.
not picking up on any except for the, all the white adornments of that horse there.
There is something in the bottom left there that we might be able to make
I
out.
wonder who that horse is.
What's that horse's name? Is that a Rosby? Yeah, those are the red stripes
Oh my god.
of Rosby, aren't
These
they?
two, yeah.
Yeah. So this looks like a continuation of the Rosby and Stokeworth soldiers that we saw over here.
Yep.
Same helmets and stuff as well. So yeah, I mean that's got blood on the shields. So
Yeah.
maybe this is like after the battle or after a battle, and this is during the battle.
Yeah.
Could be.
And given that the Rosbys and Stokeworths are with the Greens, this makes sense that this could be Kristen?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's nice to see characters actually wearing their helmets,
Yeah,
isn't it?
thank God.
Because that was another complaint about the GOT TV show is that
I mean, in episode 3, when Damon makes his suicide run in the Stepstones, he doesn't wear a helmet. And,
Yeah.
Like, that's sort of dumb, but...
that's because he was being ridiculous
Yeah.
and YOLO and suicidal.
Yeah, and wearing a helmet wouldn't make his "I'm surrendering" thing very convincing.
So they're using props to tell stories and tell
That's-
us things about characters, which
that's
is what
crazy.
storytelling's meant to do. Who would have thought? I love it. Yeah, so it looks like we've got more battles. So this is probably in the Crown Lands.
Woohoo! Battles.
And yeah, it looks as though the Stokeworths and Rosbys are siding with the Greens and Aegon against Rhaenyra by the looks of it, based on the heraldry earlier. So we will see how that develops. And oh my gosh!
That's fire. I know that from real life.
Wait a minute, there's dragons in this story.
Burning a wagon or something.
Yeah, so there's more Rosby shields in there.
The Rosbys are just eating L's today.
They sure are. I mean, that's what they do all through the series, if we're being
Damn.
honest. I think it just turns out that being like a minor house in the shadow of the Targaryens just is
It's just
generally
a bad idea.
just a bad time. I
Yeah.
would not want to
Pledge
be the Lord
yourself
of
to the
Rosby.
Tullys. Actually, that doesn't really work out that well either.
So I guess one question is like, which dragon is doing the roasting of the Rosbys here?
Well, we've seen Syrax's flame, we've seen Caraxes' flame, we've seen Sea Smoke's flame, and have we seen any of Mealy's flame? I don't think we have.
Are you telling me that you can identify a dragon based on the appearance of its fire?
Yeah, and I'm about to.
Oh my gosh. Because that's a
Please don't ask me to do that, because that's not going to happen.
well, that is a thing in the books, though, isn't it? Because in the
Yeah,
books,
yeah.
the different dragons have different coloured flame.
Yeah, isn't that cool?
Drogon breathes black flame. Rhaegal breathes yellow and green
We've
flame.
been talking for a while, haven't we?
We sure have. So you actually can tell dragons apart by their fire in the books sometimes.
But probably not here, because this is, real life fire. Enhanced by computer-generated imaging, of course, but...
I don't know how they convinced those actors to be set afire for
Yeah.
this show, but there is this cool artwork by the inimitable Ertach Ultanuz of Tessarion breathing blue flame,
Beautiful.
which is pretty cool. Although I suppose we should not get too specific about what that event is. But the point is that, yeah, there are different coloured fiery dragons in the books. So, I mean, of course, one of the things about this war is that there's soldiers and armies, but the dragons can basically roast everyone. One of the lessons from Aegon's conquest is that dragons beat armies almost every time.
Yep.
Like, as we saw in Game of Thrones, dragons can be killed with things like scorpion ballistas.
And in the Dornish wars that Aegon attempted in his conquest of Dorne, the way that the Dornish won against his dragons was by not engaging with them.
Yeah, it is possible to beat dragons by just avoiding them and striking when they least expect and getting a few lucky shots with ballistas. So yeah, like it's this weird sort of asymmetrical warfare with dragons and armies. And something they discussed in episode 10 is that they could go out with dragons and try and burn all the armies, but the dragons have to be, well, the dragons are usually piloted by people, by Targaryens, who are important royal people, and so Rhaenyra doesn't want to risk her family by having them ride into battle on the backs of dragons, especially when half the dragon riders are kids.
Yep. Her kids.
Yeah. So it's like we've got these powerful weapons, but the only way of using these weapons is by risking her children. So it's you know, it's almost like George wrote this to be as dramatic and violent as possible.
That's why you have multiple children.
Yeah, that's right. More Targaryens.
Some of them can die in war and it won't matter.
So being roasted by dragons is not fun. And then we see Rhaenys telling Rhaenyra, "Hey, this war's gonna be bad because there's Dagrons."
Which is like an extension of what she says to Corlys in episode 1 of House of the Dragon. She's like, "Yeah, no one is really grasping. Like we're playing at war here. This isn't. No one's getting the gravity of war."
Yeah. That's important because this has not really happened before. There has never been a like Targaryen civil war at this scale. There's no like memory of dragons fighting dragons.
This sort of thing would have happened in the days of old Valyria, but not since then.
Yeah, it's certainly not in like living memory. Like the closest thing that sort of happened was Maegor the Cruel, who was a son of Aegon the First the Conqueror, killed one of his nephew.
Yep.
And so that was a dragon on dragon, Targaryen on Targaryen battle that happened. But that was just one dragon and one dragon.
And one battle.
Yeah, that was one very brief moment.
Now we've got like almost 20 dragons flying around.
Yeah, so the potential for carnage is enormous. This is like, two nuclear powers just starting to fling thermonuclear ICBMs at each other. So duck and cover.
Get beneath your table.
And so,
Stop, drop, and roll.
Yeah. So Rhaenys is great. Are we Rhaenys fans? I think we're Rhaenys fans.
I'm a Rhaenys fan.
She's great because she was almost the ruler of Westeros.
Yeah.
But at the Harrenhal Council, they chose Viserys instead. And, we can wonder all day at how much better off we may have been if Rhaenys ruled Westeros instead of Viserys. Or worse off, who knows. But, she was spurned by the lords, and she has a certain bitterness about that. Partly, her actor was saying that Rhaenys kind of hates Rhaenyra because Rhaenyra was named as heir to the throne and Rhaenys wasn't, and so there's a bit of jealousy there.
Well, in this scene, Rhaenys says to Rhaenyra, good luck with that.
Yeah.
And we've just now reached the... Yeah, that's the look, isn't it? And we've just now reached the point where Rhaenyra will be needing good luck with that. And Rhaenys is now by her side to counsel her and provide some of that well-wishing that she needs. And a dragon.
Yeah, it's a weird situation where Rhaenys was previously not really in Rhaenyra's corner, but now they are bound together.
Well, there's a scene where... There are a few scenes where Corlys and Rhaenys have a chat about their ambitions and the future of their family, and Rhaenys says, "Look, I've made my peace with that. It happened a very long time ago.
I have put the business behind me."
Yeah. And I think that's sincere. I think that she means it when she says that. She's not making that up just to get her husband to do what she wants.
Yeah. Yeah, no, she means it, but the emotions aren't all gone.
Yeah. It is literally unfair that Rhaenyra was the heir to the Iron Throne and Rhaenys wasn't.
Yeah, Rhaenys was rejected for being female. Rhaenyra was not.
So it makes complete sense that she'd be bitter about that.
And of course, half this goddamn problem is that the Targaryens couldn't decide on a system and on a precedent for inheritance. Like, if they just decided, okay, women are or are not allowed to inherit, if they just stuck to something, then there'd be a much more stable realm.
That's what the purpose of the council basically was, to determine the precedents. And then Viserys was like, I don't like my brother that much. Or at least I don't trust him to be the next king if I die.
I don't hate in Game of Thrones Season 8 the idea of having a great council at the end of the story to choose a king, because it's a step towards accountability and something almost resembling democracy.
Almost, in a vague, distant sense off in the horizon that might be a democracy someday.
There's hints that before Robert's Rebellion, Rhaegar Targaryen was hoping to call a council to remove his father, the Mad King Aerys, from the throne and to possibly put himself on the throne, but to do so with the support and consent of the great houses instead of just unilaterally having a madman on the Iron Throne.
Bit of a soft coup in the direction of a more peaceful rulership.
Yeah, a soft coup in a good direction is sort of the hope. So something like that happening at the end of A Song of Ice and Fire makes some sense to me, just not in
And who has a better story?
Oh my goodness. Yeah, I did not like the way that was handled at the end of the Game of Thrones TV show.
That's such a brave and unique viewpoint you have there.
I know, I'm a special butterfly, but I did not love a lot about how that went down in Season 8. But yeah. Anyway, Rhaenys.
Really, I couldn't tell from your videos on the subject.
I know. I was subtle, I know. So Rhaenys, one of the other complications is that, Rhaenys has lost both of her children. She has lost her daughter Laena and her son
Laenor has since died.
Yeah,
in the time since this chart was made.
She thinks Laenor's dead.
Yeah.
But Rhaenys does still have her grandchildren, Baela and Rhaena. Wouldn't it suck to have Daemon as a son-in-law?
She deals with it.
Oh my god.
She tries to ignore it, I think.
So Baela's the one with the dragon, Rhaena's the one without a dragon. And Rhaenys would like Baela and Rhaena to inherit Driftmark, and to rule that second most powerful house. But also, there's the question of maybe Joffrey Velaryon might potentially rule the Velaryon and Driftmark.
Well, especially now that Luke's dead.
Now that Luke's dead and he was meant to be the person. So, there's still that sort of Velaryon power struggle is continues to be a thing.
You think Rhaena's going to be sad? She seemed to really like Luke.
Yeah, because Rhaena was betrothed to marry Luke, just as Baela was betrothed to marry Jace.
Yeah. Still is.
Yeah. So will Rhaena be betrothed to Joffrey now instead? We don't know.
I don't really see the point of having a double betrothal going on because, I agree. It's established one alliance and that's good enough.
Yeah, putting all of your chips.
Yeah, it basically leads to the situation where Luke can't give Boros Baratheon anything.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, if they didn't make that double betrothal, Luke could have said, "Okay, Boros, I will marry one of your."
Although, in saying that, Boros' daughters were 30 and Luke's 14.
Again, not the worst political marriage that has occurred in this series. So yeah, Rhaenys has a lot going on. She mostly just wants to protect her family, and she doesn't really want...
And innovate new dramatic hairstyles.
Yes.
Just look at this. It's incredible.
She sure does. But at the same time, we should remember that Rhaenys is badass.
And she's a chaotic MFer.
And her dragon was said to be the fastest dragon in Westeros at one point. And she's just cool, and I hope that we get to see some of her coolness soon.
Some epic, dramatic, Rhaenys stuff. We see Baela
so
flying.
So this is Rhaenys' granddaughter, Daemon and Laena's daughter, Baela, twin of Rhaena. She has a little dragon called Moondancer.
Well, we actually don't know if she's little in the show.
Yeah, we haven't seen Moondancer in the TV show yet. But this carefully photoshopped, this carefully cropped image is a butchered version of a Magali Villeneuve illustration of Moondancer. So she's a sort of pale green, small serpentine dragon in the books. But yeah, we're yet to see what she looks like in...
This really reminds me of Laena riding Vhagar in episode 6.
Yeah, there's a similar expression there, isn't there?
I think so.
What else do we know about Baela? We don't know a whole lot about Baela.
She seems to be the more confident, outgoing sibling between herself and Rhaena, because this sort of feeling. Rhaena, of course, doesn't have a dragon, and that's a thing that Targaryens are sort of, their strength is defined by their connection to dragons, and Rhaena doesn't have one, so she's more meek, and doesn't really get up to much. Whereas Baela's she seems a lot more fierce than Rhaena.
Yeah, we really didn't see much of them in season 1, unfortunately. So it'll be interesting to see what kinds of characterization they get.
Excited to see more of them.
Yeah, saw them kneeling to Rhaenyra at the end of season 1. So yeah, we'll see if they start participating in battles. We'll see if Rhaena gets a dragon. We'll see if they get to marry any of Rhaenyra's kids. There's a lot of possibilities with these guys, so we'll see what happens. I wonder if Rhaena will want to steal a dragon get a dragon egg.
Well, I hypothesized that she should be the one that might want to try and claim sea smoke.
Yeah, that would make a lot of sense.
And if that works, then that would be the tip to Rhaenyra that Laenor has died off screen.
Yeah. No, that's a great idea. That would make a lot of sense.
They have a lot of options concerning the future of these characters.
The fact that Baela is screaming atop this dragon suggests that she's in battle.
Oh, she could just be enjoying it. It's like when you scream on a roller coaster. Aemond screamed when he claimed Vhagar.
She looks pretty angry.
Yeah, she does.
Oh, and look at that pin that she's wearing. That looks just like Daenerys's pin in the later seasons of the TV show. That's interesting. Let's see if I can find... Do you remember which episodes she has that pin?
Oh, gosh. It's so probably season 7, episode 4.
Season 7, episode 4.
And then 8, E1, 3,
Oh, Missandei. Missandei
Oh,
has
there
that.
it is. There it goes.
So was that Daenerys'
God, I hate
little...
this scene so much.
I banged the eunuch. Look at me.
You have a crush on Jon Snow. No, I don't. Shut up.
I mean, it was kind of like an important scene because like establishing that Daenerys and Missandei like have an important relationship and a friendship is really important before Missandei's death. But yeah, I don't think it landed the way that they executed it, unfortunately. But yeah, that looks the same. It's the 3 dragon heads.
Is this some sort of, like advisor to the queen symbolism? I wonder if we'll see this thing explained at all. That is basically the same prop. I mean, it's backwards.
Yeah.
Or is it?
Yeah, no, Targaryen. Yeah.
Huh. Cool.
Ryan Condal probably loves that we're noticing this
yeah.
because you just know that Ryan was like, they were saying, Ryan, no one's going to notice that it's the same dragon head pin as last time. And Ryan was like, don't you worry, Ryan.
Ryan has
we
seen
gotcha.
enough reactions to the painted table to know that people care about the props.
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, it would be such a weird position being like a showrunner of a show like this. And the question of like, do I or do I not look at all the YouTubers?
Do I coddle the weird nerds who spend their entire lives thinking about this stuff?
Because that's one of the mistakes that Westworld made, was that they decided to write their show entirely for the Reddit nerds and to be like, yes, the average audience member will definitely want to go onto our secret website to find the Easter egg that leads to the clue that leads to the Facebook chatbot that tells them what that entire episode was about. Like, they really made it difficult for people to...
I think there's a healthy middle ground between all of that ARG stuff and contempt for the audience that Benioff and Weiss seem to demonstrate towards the end of Game of Thrones.
Because D&D did the opposite of what Westworld did, and they catered only to the people who don't know the characters' names and have no interest in any of
and
the
just
details.
Go, woo, when they see a dragon do something.
Yeah, obviously.
I mean, I do that too.
Yeah, obviously the middle ground is both. Like, we want to woo at the dragons, and we want to appreciate the small details.
If there's some ARG crap that you want people to be able to indulge themselves in, like, give that, but don't make it too important.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't make the understanding of the show's entire meaning rely on access to it.
Yeah, you've got to try and thread that needle and appeal to multiple.
Unless you're like willing to deal with the fallout of making it that exclusive, that's fine. Like,
and also, like, if you are trying to appeal to an ultra small niche audience, maybe don't spend $100 million on it. Like, if you're if making a return on your investment is a goal, maybe try to appeal to more than 5 guys on Reddit. As one of those 5 guys, I beseech you. All right.
The other 4 are gonna have words for you.
Yeah, exactly. When next time I see the other 4
meeting.
So Baela's having a yell. The way these shots are ordered makes it look like Baela is flying her dragon over King's Landing and scaring the people.
Which is interesting because if you roll the shots backwards, it sort of looks like Baela is in that battle with the Rosbys and the Stokeworths.
If you run them backwards, it looks like Baela's flying backwards away from the city.
She's leaving King's Landing.
Yeah, so it's deliberately ambiguous what's going on there.
Yeah.
But seeing
That's
all
how
these
teasers work.
seeing all these fleeing civilians reminds me of season 8, episode 5, where Daenerys decides to do a war crime, and we see all of the fleeing civilians running away from her, which is maybe a deliberate parallel that they're doing.
Oh well.
Perhaps. Oh well, oh well, oh well, oh well. So yeah, I mean, what's going on here? Why are all these civilians running around Glidus?
Because there's stuff happening, and like people panic when stuff happens.
I find stuff to be very panicky. They're grabbing Alicent. They're grabbing the Queen Mother.
The Queen Mother.
So that, of course, is similar to the riot in Game of Thrones season
2, episode. Oh God, is it 5 or 6?
6.
6.
God, you're good at that. So this was the riot that happened because the common people were hungry and not a big fan of King Joffrey.
And the opulence exuded by the royal family.
And so the Kingsguard struggled to protect the royals from the common people.
And sort of just gave up on protecting Sansa.
Yes.
Until Sandor was like, nah, let's keep her alive, I guess.
So similarly, it looks like the common people are grumpy with Alicent and the Greens. Something that
War tends to be a catalyst for famine and things of this nature.
Yeah, and while the royals are prioritizing the war and prioritizing their own safety, they might not be looking after the common folk. Well, one of the things that isn't in the books, but which I really liked in Hot D, was this idea of Mysaria as like a champion for the common people. Because she spoke to Otto, and she's like, hey, like, you have no power but what the people allow you. And you need to close the fighting pits, and you need to respect the common, innocent, average people. And of course, there was that moment in episode 9 when Rhaenys and Meleys murdered a bunch of civilians in the dragon pit for no reason.
Completely disregarding the well-being of the normal people who live in the city.
So I think that's meant to be a counterpoint to Mysaria saying, hey, you need to respect the power of the common people. So by seeing this riot happening and people grabbing Alicent, I think that's all meant to connect as a way of saying this is the consequence of not respecting the common people.
And the fate of the normal folks is thematically wrapped up in Targaryen power and disregard for their status.
Yeah.
So we'll see how that plays out.
Because, like, in theory, the whole idea to justify this feudal hierarchy is that there's a social contract. And the contract is that the royals have the power, and they use that power to protect the common people and to provide basic security.
Make your life better than it would be if we weren't there.
You pay your taxes, and you get some kind of protection in return. In theory, that's the system. And good rulers uphold that contract, and bad rulers fail to uphold that contract.
That's a biting political commentary.
I know. So when the common people start trying to rip you apart, that's a sign that you might be failing to uphold the contract.
You might have dropped the ball on that one chief.
You might have done a few whoopsies, yeah. All right, what's next?
Gee, I don't know. You're the one with the control here. This is a Bracken soldier.
See the little red horsey down there?
Yeah, the Brackens, of course, being a house of the Riverlands, who are in this constant millennia-long feud between themselves and the Blackwoods.
I love this douchebag.
Gerald Bracken.
What a guy.
You didn't believe me when I said his name was Gerald.
I thought you were joking. It was no joke.
And that's Willem Blackwood.
So what happened to Gerald?
He got cut up. He got all killed and stuff on the floor of Storm's End. What is it with Storm's End and lordlings killing each other over intergenerational beef?
I think that just dramatic environment just encourages dramatic doings. Dark, turbulent, bloody doings. I like that we saw a Bracken shield in season 1, didn't we?
When Tyrion and Catelyn get attacked by the hill tribes in the Vale.
So, yeah, this is a Bracken, and it looks as though conflict continues. Who's fighting who? I mean, maybe this is related to the Blackwood killing the Bracken in episode 4.
That was like 20 years ago.
Yeah, that's true. But it's it's a nice reminder.
Maybe we'll see Willem Blackwood again, and he's finally facing consequences. Someone's like, you killed our lord's son or whatever.
And also, this is a hint that the war is spreading. Like, we've seen that, the Rosbys and the Stokeworths indicate that there's fighting happening in the Crown Lands. But seeing this Bracken pulling out his sword suggests that the war might be spreading to the Riverlands as well.
That's right. When violence breaks out, it's like an excuse for other violences to exist also.
Yeah, it's true. Like there's opportunistic violence. Like every war...
Like if we pledge ourselves to you, then you'll pledge yourselves to them, and then we can have a war as well, which we've wanted to do because we hate you.
Yeah. Every war is an opportunity for ambitious, angry people to settle beef.
Or, as put by Peter Baelish, chaos is a ladder.
Indeed. So, yeah, we'll see what happens with the Brackens. And the Brackens are like the bad guy coded side, whereas the Blackwoods are the good guy coded side, which is also funny. Like, I always enjoy how George Martin is like, everyone has humanity, everyone's deserving of respect. There are good people and bad people on the side of every war,
Anyway, the Brackens suck.
Except for the Brackens, who are all awful. And the Freys, who are all awful. And the Boltons, who are all awful.
Oh, I don't think George does that with the Freys. I think he makes quite an effort to demonstrate that the Freys are...
True, and he also, the Boltons, there's Domeric Bolton, who was apparently...
supposed to be a cool dude.
Yeah, so...
And maybe we'll meet a cool Bracken. There's a small chance.
There's a possibility.
Yeah, but that is funny. That he makes Tytos Blackwood the coolest guy in the world. Actually, he doesn't understand it. Like,
he did it accidentally, yeah.
Where some guy was like, man, I just love Tytos Blackwood. And George was like, he appears in one scene and he's just got a cloak. Why do you love this guy so much?
Some of George Martin's most iconic characters are iconic by accident. I mean, the all-time classic is when... George Martin in the comments of his blog expressed confusion that a lot of people are attracted to the Hound and the Hound's relationship to Sansa, and he's like, but the Hound is scary and ugly. So, why would anyone be attracted to this hot man with these issues emotionally and this power and danger?
Has George ever spoken to a woman?
Yeah, there's all these people in the comments saying, no, actually, that dynamic's incredibly attractive to a lot of people. And George is like, oh, damn, I wish they were attracted to Sam, fat, bookish Sam, good, well-intentioned Sam who can't...
There are people out there, George, don't worry.
Yeah. So we see some Bernie people doing the Bernie jig.
Yep, their best Hayden Christensen impression.
Oh my god. And yeah, there's that sort of characteristic thick clothing that is worn by the stuntmen before they get set on fire for these sorts of shots. Daemon on a dragon, on Caraxes, in his armor. Who's he going to fight? So we mentioned that
anyone he can.
Yeah, anyone he can get his hands on.
Yeah.
So you mentioned that Daemon's going to Harrenhal, isn't he?
That's what he said he'd do. It's what he wanted to do, at least.
So Harrenhal is the big ruined castle that we've seen before.
A very strategic location.
Right in the center of Westeros. Biggest castle.
On the side of a big lake.
So it's near King's Landing and River Run.
It basically controls the Riverlands.
Yeah, so...
It's a great foothold if you want to conduct a war across the continent, which Daemon very much wants to do.
Currently, the Lord of Harrenhal is our buddy Larys Strong.
Not that he ever spends any time there, from the look of it.
Yeah, he's busy in King's Landing, being Alicent's Master of Whisperers, and this is, of course, after he murdered his father Lionel and brother Harwin. So who's in charge of Harrenhal? We don't know. Who's Daemon going to meet at Harrenhal? We don't know. We will find out. If that is indeed where he's going.
Don't touch that dial for 6 months or so.
And this is an event.
That is an event.
We will not spoil any major events.
But that is Helena, and that's a guy.
Yep. We will say nothing further, so we don't spoil
where
anything.
that guy came from or what he's doing there. This is Kristen copying Daemon.
Yeah, we got to see...
Plagiarism, Kristen.
We got to see Daemon bash someone in the head in Season 1, and now we see Kristen bashing someone in the head with a helmet.
I wonder if this is a similar situation where it's a messenger telling him something he doesn't like, or if it's just like someone he's in battle with. If it's someone he's in battle with, it's confusing that he's not stabbing him with his sword or something like that.
Yeah, hitting someone with your own helmet does not look like I am in Mortal Kombat type of a move.
It's more of a I'm superior to you and you've displeased me sort of maneuver.
Yeah, that is an insult of a move, isn't it?
It's episode 3.
Yeah, and I wonder what that armor design... Like, I don't remember seeing an armor design like that.
Where would you find it?
Well, to me, it sort of says Tully, that armor design. Because
the
they
one
have some of that.
The guy is wearing.
Oh, maybe not. Yeah, maybe not Tully.
It does feel Riverlandish for some reason.
Yeah, maybe it's just me.
I love the Blackfish's armor in Season 6.
Yeah, it does look pretty cool.
So cool.
Very scaly. Very cool. So yeah, Kristen continues his legacy of just being a douche. I would not be surprised if this guy is an ally and he's attacking his own ally
because he's angry.
You know, Kristen murdered Joffrey, and he murdered... God, who else did Kristen murder? He murdered Joffrey and he murdered... Lyman Beesbury. Yeah, R.I.P., never forget he. So yeah, Kristen continues to be a violent douchebag.
Some guy's fallen off a horse.
He drifted too fast. Here is who's this, Glidus?
I'm inclined to believe this is Arik Cargill.
So remember, there's Arik and there's Eric.
Yeah, you can tell from the mustache that it's Arik.
Yeah, you were saying that
I have become pretty good at telling Luke and Elliot in Saw apart, but the footage is too blurry and, it's just a single still.
Yeah. Well, Eric appears to be attacking someone in a bedroom. So what's going on here?
Looks to be in the Red Keep, actually.
Yeah.
Wonder if that's connected to anything else.
Combat inside the Red Keep is a bad sign.
Yeah. Oh, that's a guy with a sword.
Seems to be the same kind of armor.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's Aemond Targaryen riding Vhagar, presumably. Who's he fighting? What's he doing? And that's
Rhaenyra on a dragon, so
yeah,
maybe that's connected. Maybe it's not. Teasers like to play around with that sort of stuff. Deceptive editing.
The lighting and the sky.
It does look very similar.
Though. Is it possible that Aemond is fighting Rhaenyra? That would be extremely dangerous going up against Vhagar, the biggest dragon alive. In the books, we don't see a lot of Rhaenyra fighting, but it looks as though that's what's happening in the TV show. So that would be cool as well. She's not wearing armor. Like, something that people complained about with Daenerys is that she not only didn't have a saddle, she didn't even wear armor when she was in battle on her dragon.
I think the saddle complaint is a bit much because, here the Targaryens have grown up in a dragon-based cult. Like, dragons are around them all the time. They've continued on from the Valyrian legacy of having dragons. Dragons being saddled is just the thing they do, whereas Daenerys, like, there are no dragons around in the time of...
In season 1, Tyrion designed a saddle.
Yeah.
For Bran.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know why they didn't pay that off in season 7.
Yeah,
they very much could have.
It would have made so much sense for Tyrion to say, "Hey, as your hand, here's something I can do to help you."
Yeah, here's a thing I did in the past that relates to a thing that's in the present. They loved doing that in season 7.
They love nothing better than callbacks.
Yeah.
Maybe the season 1 saddle incident was a bit too obscure for them. But yeah, we'll see. If we get a moment of Rhaenyra coming out, Queen Rhaenyra in her Targaryen armor, looking as cool as like Daemon in his armor, that would be extremely cool.
Rhaenys gets armor. Why not everyone else?
So here's Vhagar, presumably being ridden by Aemond, flying over soldiers, looking huge. I love how Vhagar eclipses the sun.
Yeah.
Wonderful imagery. We see Vhagar tattered because Vhagar is so old.
War-torn.
Veteran of a zillion battles. I like all the jokes about Vhagar being like a dementia-riddled old lady who...
What's that?
Isn't...
We're going to boil the Dornish sands again. Ooh.
Exactly.
Let me get my coat.
And I wonder, like, they look like the same helmets, so I wonder if this is the same battle scene as all of those soldiers being roasted earlier, the Rosbys and the Stokeworths being roasted. I mean, based on what we see, it kind of suggests that Rhaenyra and Aemond are involved in the same battle against each other
above this
in the Crown Lands. That's what's suggested.
Sure is suggested. So
we'll see what happens. Fiery Targaryen sigil, HBO TM original TM, Game of Thrones TM, House of the Dragon TM,
Summer TM 2024, copyright registered.
They said early summer is what has been said.
Why,
so
that's right now.
Depends on the hemisphere, Glidus. So June, I think, is when this might all start, and Alt Shift X will make weekly live streams and weekly videos.
And Glidus will make some timely videos.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, what are your plans?
Oh, I'd like to make... Look, I tried doing the weekly thing in season 1 and it fell apart when I caught COVID and died for a little bit. But,
that sucks.
Yeah. And it's only been a year and a bit and I finally wrapped it up. Hopefully season 2 won't take me that long. There are only 8 episodes of this season, I believe.
Yeah, 8-episode season.
So... and hopefully there's not enough to, hopefully there's just less themes and character stuff going on, more dragon battles to talk about so that I don't have to spend that much time thinking about it for my videos.
Yeah, well,
because it's just really annoying when a show has themes.
It certainly gives more work for us, but
speaking of work for us, look at all those super chats.
Yeah, I think that we've talked about the whole teaser trailer now. If anyone has burning questions and topics they'd like us to discuss, we will be answering super chats now. And we'll do our best to answer as many as we can. And we will not spoil any major plot events. We might have a very brief spoilery corner towards the end, but we will mostly just focus on some basic info of what to expect, what we're hoping to see happen, a bit of that fun stuff. So, first super chat, thank you so much to...
I will be right back.
Sure. Thank you so much to Alex Sheehan, who says, I think the dragon face-off is Sea Smoke and Cyrax. Yeah, I think that's where Glidus and I landed on that as well. This shot of the two dragons facing each other over here. I think based on their appearance, it looks like Rhaenyra's dragon Cyrax and Laenor's dragon Sea Smoke. Of course, Laenor has gone off into the east, so there's a lot of open questions about like who is now in control of Sea Smoke. Could this possibly be Laenor returning from the east, or has someone else taken Sea Smoke? Is it possible for someone else to take Sea Smoke while Laenor is alive? Lots of open questions. Thank you, Bilbo Norway, who says, Sclooby and Glooby, do you think we will get the steamy 50-minute long auto callus makeout sesh in this season, perhaps in season 3? I have not detected a lot of sexual tension between Otto and Corlys personally. I mean, I don't think they've ever really had a conversation in the whole show. I mean, they were both on the small council for Viserys when Otto was Hand and Corlys was Master of Ships. But do I expect to see them make out in season 2? It would surprise me.
What did I miss?
Yeah, it would surprise me. Bilbo Norway wants to know if Otto and Corlys will make out.
Oh, now that's a pairing I haven't really considered.
Yeah, we're really innovative shipping going on here in the super chats. We will just have to wait with bated breath to see if that occurs.
I don't see them really being in the same location for long enough to pull that off.
I don't.
And like, is there that much chemistry?
I mean, opposite sides of a war, forbidden love.
True,
you know.
True.
I mean, they're both very ambitious men. I see that clashing. You know, I don't see that working too well. Who do we ship? Who do we expect to get together here? You know,
I really like the love triangle between Rhaenys, Rhaenyra, and actually, the real love triangle is Corlys, Rhaenys, and Corlys. Corlys is in love with Corlys. But
Corlys is in love with the idea of his legacy and his self-importance. Yeah, Rhaenys must sometimes feel a bit left out.
I don't know. I think a ship that really took off was Jason to Helena.
Yeah.
And there's of course the Helena and Aemon thing that people talk about.
Helena and Aemond.
Yeah.
Yeah, it seemed as though they had some kind of connection, and it seemed like Aemond was a bit jealous that Aegon gets to marry Helena and he doesn't, so...
I wouldn't mind marrying her. She's an idiot.
Yeah, so I wonder what other romances might happen. I mean, Jason Baylor, is something that makes some sense. But we shall see. We shall see. Thank you for the super chat from Raven, who says, glad to catch the stream. Thank you, Liam, who says, hello, Astroglide and Shaft.
Please stop calling me that.
Question about the episode 10 Bliss Take. Have you chosen an a cappella intro yet? And may I suggest Your Love by the Outfield?
That's a great song. And maybe one day I'll do it. But I chose the song I'm doing for this episode like over a year ago.
Yeah, this Bliss Take series has been long in the making.
I've been working on this video for over a year.
And the final one is coming out very soon, so everyone should go and subscribe to Glidus. There is a link in the video description below this stream. Go and sub to Glidus and press the little bell. Thank you, Sebrin Mako, who says, greetings, Shimbong Belus and Glenn Klublu.
Are you used to... you're just Alt Shift X.
I don't know who.
Yeah,
you
sorry.
think
That's
what
what happens when you bring my people along.
Could you attempt to pronounce that for me, please?
Greetings, Shimbobulus and Glen
Culberbon.
Glen Culberbon. Hello from Serbia. Oh, that explains it. Do you all read fan fictions of Ice and Fire and House of the Dragon? If so, which do you like and which are bad? Have you read much fan fiction?
I don't think I've read any A Song of Ice and Fire or House of the Dragon.
Oh, I've read a little bit.
Yeah? Any good stuff?
No. I'm sure it's out there. I just it takes so much time. Who has the time? I'd love to.
Some of them are very long. I mean, very impressive.
Yeah, people put so
amounts
much
of effort.
work into these things, and George hates you for it.
I feel like that may have been exaggerated. All
Yeah.
these stories of George Martin. I mean, I think George Martin has said things along the lines of like, if you want to become a better writer, make up your own stuff.
Yeah.
Is what George Martin has said in the past.
I think he's referred to it as copyright infringement before as well.
Which I think he has to say for legal reasons.
Right.
Like, I think that some authors feel obligated to not acknowledge fan works because that might undermine their legal claim to their own copyrights, because it's this really fun thing about this legalistic dystopia that we live in, that you can't admit to liking things because it might make you lose your rights over your stuff.
I hate Lindsay Ellis.
We hate everything unless otherwise.
Yeah.
Thank you for the super chat from Saint Naive, who says, held off on watching the teaser until now. Cheers for covering it. Also, Glidus, well done on the new Bliss take. It was almost as long as Caraxi's neck.
Oh, this must be a supporter who's already watched it. Thank you very much.
Are you telling me that supporters of Glidus on patreon.com can get early access to videos such as the long-awaited Bliss take for episode 10?
Not just that, Mr. Shift, but so too do YouTube members and Twitch subs. Not that anyone cares about Twitch subs.
Oh, well, if you'd like to support Glidus in his efforts, you can support him on Patreon or elsewhere.
It'll be coming out in like 12 hours, don't worry about. Or at least it should be if YouTube doesn't sync it again.
You also might like to support Alt-Shift-X on Patreon, because...
There's an Alt-Shift-X Patreon at patreon.com/Alt-Shift-X.
There sure is.
Wow.
On the live stream tier of Patreon supporters, we've been doing monthly live streams talking about the real Jon Snow video that is 90% finished and will be out sometime in the near future. So that's exciting too.
You mean tomorrow, right?
I do not mean tomorrow.
Oh.
Thanks for the super chat from SS, who says, do you think Jacaerys knows about Aegon's prophecy by now?
I think if that were to have happened, we would have been shown it. Right?
Yeah, because like the show did put a lot of emphasis on who does and does not know about Aegon's prophecy about the White Walkers coming. Because Viserys told that prophecy to Rhaenyra, and Rhaenyra mentioned that prophecy to Daemon, and Daemon was really angry because he didn't know it. So yeah, I agree. I think that if Jacaerys knew about the prophecy, we would have seen Rhaenyra tell Jacaerys about the prophecy.
Yeah, it seems really important. And maybe he'll learn something about the White Walkers when he goes to Winterfell and talks to Cregan Stark.
Yeah. We saw Cregan's predecessor, Rickon Stark, the previous Lord of Winterfell, while Viserys was telling Rhaenyra about the prophecy in season 1. So yeah, they definitely are starting to bring the Starks in the North into this in a way that's connected to the prophecy. So yeah, I mean, Jacaerys may be involved in that. And I mean, obviously, the idea seems to be that each the Targaryen king passes this prophecy down to their successor to keep that knowledge alive. So it would make sense for Rhaenyra to tell Jace at some point about that prophecy. But and there's also the question of like, when was that knowledge lost? Because we know that at least by the time of Game of Thrones, no one apart from like Melisandre seems to be aware of this prophecy. So the question is like, who knows it, and when was it lost, and the significance of the Valyrian steel dagger.
And like we hear about Rhaegar uncovering old prophecies and communicating with Maester Aemon about these ideas, these like lost ancient stories about prophecy, and that's probably just this story. Like it's probably Aegon's prophecy that he's uncovering. Yeah.
So lots of cool questions around that.
Dorf Antifa says, "Hey Glorbus and Swiftophorus. Swiftophorus isn't here right now. You're talking to Glorbus and Shiftophorus."
Yeah, you have me mistaken with my ne'er-do-well, estranged half cousin, Alt Swift-X.
In
I'm
any
Alt
case,
Shift-X.
This person is asking, do we think that Jorah Mormont will eventually join the Night's Watch since it was his father's dying wish? Again, I think this is a case of, the George gardening his plants. He's planted that seed, Like, it makes complete sense that J.R. Mormont would say in his dying breath, hey, can you please make sure my son, like, redeems himself in some regard, because he's such a disappointment, he's such a shame upon our house's legacy. That doesn't necessarily mean it's going to happen. It just means that, like, it's going to carry some weight going into the future of Jorah's story.
Yeah, I agree. Like, just as much as they could have Jorah join the Night's Watch in the end, they could have Jorah die or leave and then, bemoan the fact that, I'll never be able to fulfill my father's dying wish, and they can, like, lean on the tragedy of that. It could work either way. And I mean, like, the whole, like, will they need a Night's Watch at the end of A Song of Ice and Fire?
Will the Night's Watch still exist? I'm partial to the theory that Tyrion will be the last Lord Commander.
Really?
Yeah, I really like that. Although it conflicts with other, like, equally or even more narratively resonant ideas about where Tyrion's story is heading. I know that you really like Tyrion being muted.
Having his tongue cut out,
by Euron or someone.
Yeah.
But there's a scene in A Game of Thrones. This is a very early seed that's been planted, when Jon says to Tyrion that he needs to go out beyond the wall to look for Benjen.
Yeah.
And Tyrion says, and who will look for you?
Yeah.
And I really like the idea that it's Tyrion.
Oh.
Yeah.
I
just think that's super cute. And like, sort of Tyrion being in charge of, he's this very dishonorable fella, and that's like the Night's Watch is where we send people who have no place.
Yeah.
In civilized Westeros.
Yeah, it's a place for the outcasts and the rejects.
And Tyrion being king of the outcasts, that just makes so much sense.
And also, the wall is the place for the punishment for your crimes. And Tyrion has committed horrific crimes and will
commit more. In Game of Thrones,
more.
his punishment for those crimes is being named Hand of the King.
Yeah, and it's so weird that Bran is like, Tyrion being Hand is punishment because
of all
like
the shit he did when he was Hand of the King.
Yeah. Because Tyrion was such a bad Hand of the King, his punishment is to be Hand of the King. But also, like, like Bran's implication was that it's going to be really difficult being my Hand of the King, and that's why it's a punishment.
That sounds like the cushiest job in the world.
Well, we see how cushy it is at the end of the series when Tyrion is sitting there joking about like donkeys and honeycombs with his buddy Bronn, and it's like, really, like, this is what the situation
This is his punishment for sending Daenerys down a warpath, exploded the city.
Yeah, Tyrion's arc makes no sense in season 8 to me. So I like that idea.
God.
It's all right. I like that idea of Tyrion going to the wall. That's
It'd be
fun.
difficult if he's also a mute, though. So I don't know.
Thanks for the super chat from Mattis, who says, "So great to catch you guys live. Greetings from Germany."
Thanks for staying up.
Thank you, Endermena and Haley, who says, "So it seems like they've cut Daeron out of the show."
Oh, we didn't talk about this.
Let's talk about Daeron. Who's Daeron?
Daeron Targaryen is Alicent and Viserys' youngest child. He's the fourth child of them. It goes Aegon, Helena, Aemond, Daeron. And he doesn't show up in House of the Dragon, and he hasn't appeared in this teaser or any promotional material, and there are rumors on Dragon Twitter that he's not in Season 2 at all.
It would be weird if he was not included, because
he's there. That's him.
Yeah, in this so clear and so easy to follow diagram at the start of each episode, this circle that represents Alicent has 4 bloodlines coming from it, which represents 4 children.
And that's Viserys' bloodline running into hers from off screen there.
So it should be Aegon and Helena and Aemond and Daeron. So we've been told by the show's creators that Daeron is canonically hanging out in Old Town.
I think
the
George
High
has
Towers.
said that too. Yep.
Yeah, so he's around. There are rumors that he's not being included in this season, which we think would be weird, don't we?
Yeah, it could work, but it doesn't. I don't like it.
Like why include him in the diagram at all if he's not going to turn up in season 2? So yeah, look, we'll see what happens. I think there's not a whole lot to say about him. Like he's being the cupbearer for Lord Hightower, and he has a dragon. I don't think it's a spoiler to say that he has a dragon.
No, he's a Targaryen prince
called Tessarion, the Blue Queen,
who's supposedly really sexy and cool and blue.
Yes, and so that's about as much as we can say about Tessarion.
Yeah. It's just strange that, like, he's in the opening credits, but he's never mentioned He's not even mentioned.
I think that,
We
like,
spend half of the show with his family.
it does make sense that they might want to cut some characters and simplify things a bit, because, like, a lot of casual viewers are already totally overwhelmed by the number of characters and the relationships
I really
and the
think
kids.
that's due to the time skipping, which is not going to be a factor in the show going forward.
True. Yeah, there's
And-
going to be less of that.
And the show's been making new stuff, like, left and right, so, I don't know, reducing what's in the book already, it's already such, like, a small story. I don't know. Doesn't really make sense to me.
Yeah, I agree. I tend to think and hope Daron will appear. Darth Swiftius would like to see some Rhaenyra Alicent events. Callum Arnold says, will the story end this season, or will we get season 3? Yeah, they're planning to make more seasons. Last I heard, they're thinking like 4 or 5 seasons.
I think
even
4 makes sense for this show. Just like in my concept of how the show can be paced out.
Especially with like the shorter season, 8 episode season.
I don't see it. It depends on where they want to cut the story off, because Fire and Blood, the book, extends, to a certain point, and they don't necessarily have to tell that part of the story. I think they should. I think it'd be good if they did, but it's a bit of a weird ending in the book, because it's the first part of the Targaryen history.
Yeah, there's hundreds of years of history of which this story is just one part, and it's interesting to see where they will end it, because they could continue, and there's been speculation about this could become like an anthology
Season
series.
20 of House of the Dragon.
Yeah, like they could.
Be
They
like
could.
The Simpsons.
Yeah. Please, maybe not like The Simpsons.
Hey, it's not that bad. I was watching season 20 of The Simpsons the other day, and you know what? It's not that bad.
Personally, I just like the first 8 seasons.
Yeah, fair enough. It is the best. I won't argue with that.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, George Martin in an interview did recently mention that he and the showrunners are planning and working on season 3. So yeah, it seems as though this will continue. Hopefully, the turbulent business happenings in the networks and streamers recently is not going to disrupt this show and the others, because it is one of the more expensive shows to make, I'd imagine. So hopefully it'll continue.
Vote with your wallet.
Thank you, Endemina, who says, I am not watching the screen during this. I'm just listening to your fine audio description.
That's a shame. We put a lot of work into this visuals.
Thank you, Forasetti, who says, I find it very interesting that in the marketing material they focus on Rhaenyra versus Alicent and not Aegon. Makes me appreciate how great of a character Alicent is in the show versus books even more. Yeah, the show has made this story, they've sort of centered this story on Alicent and Rhaenyra more than the books are. Like, I think the books do focus a little more on Aegon and his agency. But I think that they've done well to like explore this relationship and how it changes, and to make it like the emotional heart of the story. I think they've both done a great job acting, both their adult counterparts and their younger. And they've certainly deepened the relationship. I think they've done a good job with it.
Yep. Yeah, in the book, Alicent's just Rhaenyra's evil stepmother.
Both Rhaenyra and Alicent are more evil in the books, I would say.
Yes. And maybe the show will see their characters descend into that same sort of character, the behavior as it goes on. Yeah,
it'll be interesting to see if they keep both of these characters like quite well-intentioned and noble and complex, or if they will start to veer into violence and madness.
Well, judging from the last shot of season 1, I don't see it. I don't see Rhaenyra remaining poised and restrained.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's a good comparison to Daenerys in Game of Thrones season 8, right? Because like a lot of people hated how Daenerys suddenly turned evil and murdered thousands of civilians. We didn't feel like we really got the journey that led her to that point. Whereas I think House of the Dragon is doing a really good job of showing how Rhaenyra has started out having really good intentions and has had all these horrible things happen and has been put in these impossible political situations. So, like, you know, if it is that they want to explore like a darker side to her, I think it would make sense in a way that Daenerys did not make as much sense in the TV show.
Yep.
Thank you, Mitchellanius, who says, Hi, Swiftlock and Dr. G. We've seen dragon on dragon action, but will we see dragon on dragon action? Brackets. Dragon sex. Close
Oh,
brackets.
thanks for elaborating.
Thanks so much for
I didn't know what you
clarifying.
meant. Well, it depends on if Silverwing's up for it.
I don't know if dragons do have sex. Because there's all this... you joke, Mitchellanius. We take dragon sex very seriously here on Alt-Shift X. There's all this speculation in the books about, like, dragons' gender and sex and whether they even have a gender or sex. Like, some clever characters argue that dragons change their sex. They flicker and are as changeable as flame, and so they can be male or female depending on what's required. And it's not even clear, like, which ones can lay eggs or... Like, I don't think there's any mention of dragons having sex in the books. So
There's mention of them, like, mating and coupling, but like no one's ever like, and then I saw this one's rod go into this one's.
I mean, for an author who loves describing sex as much as George Martin does, it's weird that there's been no mention of dragons having sex. There are some hints, I suppose, of dragons like literally interbreeding with Valyrians and Targaryens, but nothing like specific. So I mean, yeah, I don't know if dragons have sex. Maybe they just lay eggs. Maybe they just mitose. I don't know. Maybe we'll find out.
Maybe dragons are just clones of other dragons.
Thank you for the super chat from Wisdom, who says, Shifty and
Glue.
love you guys so much, almost not in a parasocial way.
That's cool.
Thank you for the Black Queen video, Glidus.
All good.
Shifty, thank you for keeping your evil twin in line.
Someone's got to do it.
I'll do my best.
Snazzy Puke says, is there another time skip this season? There's a shot of Damon in armor where his hair looks longer. It's a shot where he's walking, not sitting at the table. Interesting note. Do you know the shot that is being brought into question here?
I'll see if I can bring it up.
My assumption was that we're carrying on like basically immediately from episode 10 of House of the Dragon.
I think his hair's always been that length, hasn't it?
Yeah, I think so. Maybe it's just like not as tied up here. Or maybe it's later in the season.
Yeah.
Days, weeks, months can pass in the season, but there's not going to be any like, and now it's 3 years later in this season.
Yeah, we don't expect any big time skips, but yeah, I mean, certainly there could be hair growing a bit longer. Thanks for the super chat from Jack, who says, been binging both your old live streams recently, and it's so amazing to see one live. Love your work.
Thanks for showing up. Mikey, fake name, says, looking forward to the real Jon Snow vid, Mr. Shift. I am too. Would you consider doing similar videos for Stannis Baratheon and Theon Greyjoy?
Yeah, I mean, I think those are good picks.
Yeah.
Like, Stannis and Theon are both characters who have a lot of layers, especially Stannis. Like, Stannis was not adapted well in the Game of Thrones TV show.
Done dirty.
Yeah, he's got a lot more going on in the books, which would be really interesting to explore. Theon was acted so well by Alfie Allen.
So good.
But again, there's even more depth, I think, in the books. So, yeah, it would be great to make big video character analyses, comparisons about those characters. I think that after the real Jon Snow, I'd like to do some other smaller videos about the North. Smaller than 2 hours, believe it or not.
You know how at the end of H Bomber Guy's most recent video, the 90-minute diatribe about Tommy Tallarico, he said, and now I'd like to do some smaller projects.
Yes.
That was a year ago.
Yes.
I think he's about to release like a 3-hour video on something.
Yeah, I've never intended to make giant long videos. It just sort of happens. Yeah. So yeah, I don't know exactly what the plan is. I think that, I mean, after having done the real Tyrion and the real Jon, it would make some sense to do the real Daenerys as the other super major central character.
That does make sense, yeah.
So I think that we'll put it to a Patreon vote at some point to choose which character to do next. But for the moment, yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of other characters in the North, like Mance and Melisandre, and some other characters who I've researched incidentally for the real Jon Snow video, where it should be pretty straightforward to do some quick videos about them.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, we'll see what happens.
The real Great John Umber.
Hell yeah. Thank you, Blanco Smoke, who says, just want to say thanks for all the great content over time. Thank you, Andrew, who says, who would win in a war, House Targaryen or House Harkonnen?
Oh, you feel this one?
Yeah, I'll take this one. Well, House Harkonnen has giant spaceships.
Yeah, but the dragons.
But the Targaryens have dragons. I don't know how the dragons cope with the vacuum of space. I feel like if the Targaryens tried to attack the Harkonnens with dragons, the Baron Vladimir Harkonnen would simply eat them.
Maybe dragons are aliens who don't need to breathe.
Maybe dragons are sandworms.
Maybe.
I mean, they played the same kind of role.
Yeah,
you know,
as these like natural forces of destruction that men fool themselves into thinking they can control.
Yeah, and in the later Dune books, there is a character that can control sandworms, so that's a whole thing. But Dune.
Maybe we'll encounter a Targaryen who truly can control their dragons.
Well, yeah, I mean that's one of the fun things that Hot D is exploring that isn't so much in the books is the idea of like to what extent do Targaryens truly control their dragons? Because Aemon did not want Vhagar to kill Luke.
No, Vhagar, no.
But it happened. And, Viserys is saying that dragons are a force that cannot be controlled and should not have been meddled with. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how they explore that more. But, the second Dune movie is coming out in March, and I would like to make videos about it. There's a bunch of Dune videos I want to make, like the philosophy of Dune and the top fighters of Dune, and there's a bunch of little things that are half done and mostly done.
I think Oberyn should be number one.
Oh, really? Is that what you think? I get these outraged comments on my top fighters in Westeros videos all the time, and my goodness, are they letting me have it about their opinions about the top 10? My goodness. Thank you, Radom, who says, thank you for all the content from you two. Glimbus covers have actually got me super into Billy Joel recently.
Never heard of him.
Excited to see what you guys have coming. Glidus makes original music and covers as well for a lot of his videos.
Actually released my full cover of Africa by Toto just yesterday.
Yeah, so you can check that out on Glidus' side channel. Thanks for the super chat from Beji, who says, golden dragon banners beside the Iron Throne instead of the green ones Otto had at the end of last season, plus Kristen with the hand chain. Chances Aegon fires Otto this season seem pretty high.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, Kristen's hand chain does seem to suggest that Kristen becomes Hand of the King, is what is suggested by that shot.
So maybe Aegon becomes upset with the way Otto wants to run things.
We will have to see. But, Otto's very important because he is a scion of House Hightower, which is, probably the third most rich and powerful house in Westeros and a key ally of Aegon and Alicent and the Greens. So you don't want to piss off Otto too much. Thanks for the super chat from Tomoka, who says, I spent my Halloween excitedly awaiting the promised cannibalism stream to see 0 notifications. How am I supposed to know who tastes good now?
I don't know if anyone promised something like that to happen at that time.
The stream that was promised? Yeah, I think you might be referring to the Alt Swift X
award-winning, world-renowned stream of series of live streams about the food descriptions in A Song of Ice and Fire.
Yeah. Do you think Swift and Glidus will finish that series?
It wouldn't be in character for us to do that.
Yeah. Well, look, we'll have to see what they do. We'll have to see.
Yeah.
Thank you, Alt Shift of Mia, who says, Greetings, Father. I bring fell tidings. Alt Shift of Mia the Younger has taken ill. Please take this small offering and send the healers soon. Well, milk of the puppy is expensive. I'll see what I can do. But prayer does wonders.
God works in mysterious ways.
Thank you, Pikachu Ferrari, and thank you, Lord Mud.
What a name.
Who says, Greetings, fellow lords. I'd like to inquire as to your favorite extinct houses of A Song of Ice and Fire.
Wink, wink.
Who are your top picks?
Oh, geez. Extinct houses. I really like the Justmans of the Reach, of the Riverlands.
What's good about the Justmans?
I don't know. It's just like this is cool, harkening back to a period in time where some guys managed to unite the Riverlands truly.
Yeah, that's something I think a sort of on the nose symbolic
it's
thing.
so over the top. I'm a good person. I am a just man.
Yeah, and the just noble man is extinct.
Yeah, and they
It's as though
they all died terribly.
it's like Arthur Dane, It's like the noble, idealized fantasy good guy is a species that has died out in modern Westeros.
well, Barristan Selmy is still alive, but his legacy is a bit murky in a way that none of the characters really like to discuss.
Which is the other thing, which is that even the characters who are idealized, the
Like
more
Ned Stark, Barristan Selmy.
the more you examine them, the more you find that things are complicated.
Yeah.
And sometimes the people who seemed perfect were not so perfect. And, history is always more complicated. And that's one of the fun meta themes of Hot D is that, Hot D was first conceived as this, side note in A Song of Ice and Fire that was quite straightforward. But then, the more that George expanded the story, the more layers and complexity he found in his own characters as he was inventing them. And now Ryan and the showrunners of Hot D are inventing their own layers and finding their own depths. It's sort of this fractal thing where the deeper you look, the more you find every time.
Turns out that very few things are actually simple. I'm also partial to the Grey Irons. I just think that's a cool name, and they did a cool thing.
Yeah. Do you think the Grey Irons have anything to do with grayscale in the Iron Islands? Do you mess with the lepers in Iron Islands theories and the Grey King had grayscale? Are you into all that?
I haven't thought too much about that, honestly.
Yeah. There's some interesting theories about the Ironborn.
Oh yeah, they're a fishy bunch.
Yeah. And, like the mythology sort of low-key mentions and, and by the way, we had this immortal king who stole fire from the gods.
Just by the by.
And, sacrificed a demon weirwood and a dragon. And it's like, that sounds like it might be significant.
Yeah. Anyway, moving on to the next king.
Thank you, Beauty and Bailey, who says, how do you think the story will change or expand in respect to Alicent and Rhaenyra's relationship compared to the books? Yeah, I mean, they're on opposite sides of the war now. I don't know how many opportunities they're going to have to talk, I mean, I guess, we've seen Rhaenyra flying around on a dragon, going to Storm's End. And apparently
she
flying...
said she would return to King's Landing on Dragonback.
And apparently flying in what looks like a battle with Aemond is what it looks like in the trailer. So, yeah, I mean, maybe if Rhaenyra is flying around some more, there'll be more opportunities for her to get back with Alicent and to try and figure things out. I mean, there's a sense of tragic miscommunication because, Rhaenyra thought that she and Alicent had reconciled because, at that dinner, they were holding hands again and they were being close and, there was a sense of agreement. So that's why it was shocking when Alicent crowned Aegon. If they could talk, then Alicent could say, "Hey, Rhaenyra, the reason why I crowned Aegon is that my husband Viserys said that he wants Aegon to be the king." And then
Rhaenyra's like, "Oh no, what a tragic misunderstanding. What he really meant."
Yeah, which, not like that conversation could possibly solve everything,
Yeah.
but, they could at least understand each other, and Rhaenyra could at least realize that, oh, okay, Alicent has actual reasons. She wasn't just lying to my face in episode 8. She actually, that was real. But of course, by the time they have that conversation, there's probably already been battles and it's already too far to turn back. And, I think that's one of the tragic undercurrents. And, something else they've talked about in the show is the idea that there was some kind of, intimacy, some almost, romantic love between Alicent and Rhaenyra really early on.
This girl is in love with that girl. No question.
Yeah, and, the idea of, is that something that could in some way be recaptured?
Pictured two platonic friends being platonic.
But they also have changed so much, So, yeah, I'll be really interested to see how it develops. And, of course, what more horrible things will they each do as this war continues? And, yeah, be interesting to see. What do you think about Rhaenyra going into battle rather than ruling from afar?
I'm interested to see how they justify that decision.
Yeah.
It's going to have to be addressed. If it's not addressed, it's just a dumb idea.
Yeah. And also you mentioned that, Rhaenyra in the books, gets more overweight, and that's, used against her as, she's not as appealing.
Unfit to rule, because she's got a bit fat.
Yeah, because this is a sexist society, women who are hot get a lot more support than women who are not.
Remember when Robert Baratheon became incredibly fat?
Exactly.
And no one cared.
and Viserys, King Viserys in the books gets fat and no one cares.
Well, he's jolly and plump.
Yes. Whereas when a woman gets plump, it's she's illegitimate, cast her down. So yeah, I mean, I don't know if that's something that they're going to do in the show, but The show definitely is interested in exploring like sexism and patriarchy. So
It's also interested in having hot actors.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, it is funny that like the show wants to explore sexism, but God forbid they ever have anyone on the screen who's anything less than a 9. You know, like that's one of the paradoxes of Hollywood is
Yeah.
that like let's do representation.
Tell a story about this ugly duckling.
Let's do representation, but not of anyone who's anything less
Yeah.
than a supermodel. You know. So there are certainly paradoxes in how Hollywood handles that stuff.
Yeah, that said, I'm of the mind that all of that discussion of Rhaenyra's growing weight in the book was, political
Oh yeah.
in nature.
Yeah. Because the book is all about like the people writing the history are politically motivated, and so when they're trying to make people seem good or bad, they're biased in how they write. And
Comments from male historians about the exact nature of women's bodies are like littered all throughout the book,
yeah,
and it's all nonsense.
yeah. So creating a canonical version of that, they've got a lot of latitude in the show to change stuff. Lord Bompus says something.
To glide down Nadir, but shift up for premiere of Hot D to Sarah.
That's quite beautiful, Bumpus. I don't understand it, but I like your little
I'm going
poem.
to print it and frame it on the fridge.
Jennifer says, who's Alt-Shift-X and what has he done with Swifty? Swifty has been detained for the safety of all.
You know that episode that is it an episode or is it just a Treehouse of Horror segment? Bart's twin Hugo.
Yeah, no, I've got a spacious, comfortable attic for Swift to frolic in, so don't worry. Thank you, Bane's Basement, who says, Sir Glimbonimer, please inform his lordship that the ancestral seat of Shiftmark is now under attack by the Scargosi savages of Swiftwood Hall.
They'll figure it out.
Do you think the Scargosi are as savage as we are told?
Nah.
I really like the idea that the Scargosi, which is like a island off the north, like I like the idea that they're like hardcore northern worshippers who still sacrifice to trees, and like in the books, Rickon Stark is on Scargos hanging out with unicorns and his dire wolf, and I like the idea that they might sort of radicalize him into a badass old god skin changer. Cool dude.
There are a few like northern old gods coded badass children in Fire and Blood who like that could like harken back to.
Yeah. As we said, it would be great to see a bit more of the North in this show.
The real North.
And it looks like they want to do that.
Yeah.
Thank you, my dad after a bath. Who says, will you two beautiful boys do Telltale Got episode 2?
Well, this is in reference to what Alt-Swift-X and I did on his channel, Alt-Swift-X Gaming. We played one episode of the Game of Thrones Telltale game, which was released in like 2015 or something. And then we didn't do it again because it was just really annoying streaming a game like that and still trying to talk over it.
Well, from what I saw, it looked as though it's quite difficult to commentate over a game that's about conversations.
And also about choices in those conversations that you have to pay attention to. It was like, I'm sure it was fun for the audience, but it was frustrating.
Yeah, well, for all I know, there could be new Alt-Swift-X gaming streams sometime soon.
Knows?
So who knows? Who knows?
Who knows? Subscribe to that channel.
Thank you, Lala Loopsy, who says, don't know what's going on, but I just caught a stream. Cheers. Fantasy Haven beat you to it.
Yeah, well, I slept in today.
Thank you, Marcus, who says, based in Glidus Pilt.
True.
Thank you, Will, who says, Dr. Shiftel and Mr. Glide, hope you're doing well. Kind of hoping we get to see the cannibal at some point.
I think that'd be great as well.
I think we might just see the cannibal. Has the cannibal been mentioned though in this TV show? Yeah.
Yeah, because Damon mentions the 3 untamed dragons that make their lairs in the Dragonmont or on Dragonstone.
This is the official art by Renee Agnar of Cannibal, Grey Ghost, and Sheep Stealer. And yeah, Cannibal is the fun-friendly dragon.
So badass.
Who lives on Dragonstone, is a wild, untamed dragon, and it likes to eat baby dragons and other dragons for the protein, I suppose. There's also the elusive Grey Ghost, who's rarely seen, and there's also Sheep Stealer, who likes to steal sheep. So who could take control of these dragons is an important question. Thank you, Chef Pantherfoot. That's a great name.
Yeah.
He says, finally got to catch you guys live. You're awesome. Thank you. Thank you.
Wish I thought of Chef Pantherfoot before Glidus.
Thank you. Oh, you wouldn't believe how many times I've dreamed of coming up with a name that's easier to spell than Alt-Shift-X. Thank you, Narala, who says, what are your expectations from Aegon II? Did you like his coronation scene in episode 9? I got chills with his teary-eyed walk with that epic soundtrack.
It is indeed an epic soundtrack, and I also really enjoyed the coronation scene. It's a bit muddled by what happened at the end, but still pretty good scene. Like this bit, it's just epic.
Yeah, I mean, I think we already discussed how, like, you know, it means something to Aegon that he's actually getting approval and love from the common people, and I wonder if he might become less of an awful person and might actually try to do the right thing by the common people. And I think, you know, like we've compared it before to, there's that moment where Joffrey discovers the joy of the common people.
Season 3, episode something or other. Yeah, that one there. And Cersei is in the back here going like, I don't know about this.
Yeah. Hang on a moment.
How dare he find approval in other people?
Yeah, exactly. My son is getting emotional security from someone other than me. I'm losing my monopoly on emotional control of my child. Yeah, it's definitely a dynamic that is evoked by the Alicent Aegon relationship. So yeah, I'm really fascinated. Like, you know, Aegon could have an opportunity to make policies and to make decisions about who his advisors are and who his Hand of the King is, and to make decisions about, you know, maybe he could decide that, hey, maybe peace with Rhaenyra is a good idea after all. There's infinite possibilities. But we've also seen that, you know, at least previously, Aegon has shown little interest in anything other than drinking and womanizing and watching his bastard children fight in pits.
It's a niche hobby, I'll grant.
I'm sure there's a subreddit for it. So yeah, I'm fascinated to see what happens. Thank you, Violet, who says, in honor of the Camp Silver Creek staff, Dragon Show Nerd Club, Moose Salad and Bear Dog.
Domi says, I hated Rhaenyra's silence at the end of season 1. She should have screamed, "You gotta be risen me!" to express her anguish. I'm not sure I agree with that. I think the decision to have her stare at me personally was great.
I think it was implied.
Yeah, the screaming about the risen was implied.
I think that it worked really well as a cliffhanger, and I think whether we like it or not, it works as a callback to Daenerys and her grumpy face in season 8, episode 4.
Annoyed.
Which I think it's so funny when Emilia Clarke pretends to be an angry person.
She's got such a lovely, she's got a nice face.
Have you seen Emilia Clarke in that rom-com with the bee socks?
No.
It's just like Emilia Clarke at her most sort of bubbly and fun, and it's just a hilarious comparison to Daenerys Targaryen.
Yeah.
Thanks for the super chat from Simcoe, who says, I was about to go to sleep, but gonna catch the latest Shriftler and Glimmer.
True.
Thank you, Charlie, who says, turned up, love ya. Also love poor Helena. Raven says, horse's name that Cole is riding is Tyrek Lannister.
It's Tyrek Lannister. He's a time-traveling horse shifter.
Glidus, did you see that new... Well, I say new. Did you see that 2003 draft outline of A Feast for Crows / A Dance with Dragons?
I did.
Written by George R. R. Martin in 2003.
And recently leaked to someone who posted it on Reddit.
What did it say on that outline?
The very first note in that outline, under the heading Daenerys, was... pretend it is a horse.
Mm.
And like, I didn't ask for Apollo to give me the gift of prophecy. But...
Glidus has been saying for years that Tyrek Lannister, the mystery of Tyrek Lannister is that he actually, in fact, is a horse, because the book says that Tyrek Lannister is...
He was last seen a horse.
Last seen a horse. So look, you clearly can see the future, and George clearly agrees. Daenerys is pretending to be a horse, or yeah, look, we'll figure it out. We'll make a video.
It's all the same horse.
Thank you, Bane's Basement, who says, apparently Ryan Condal brought Hayden Christensen for season 2 to teach the Rosbys how to burn alive.
No shot.
Thank you, Simcoe, who says, just realised it's actually Alt-Shift-X. Can't believe you're cheating on Swifty with his mortal enemy Glidus.
We've got a deal sorted out, don't worry.
Yeah,
I'm going to stab Shift after the stream, don't worry.
Oh my god! Betrayal, treachery. Et tu, Glidus.
Glute.
Thank you, Ginger, who says, first live I've caught. Love your guys' videos. Thank you. Lots of speculation about Swift's.
Hey, you leave our personal relationship to us, okay?
Thank you, Olivia Williams, who says many super chat. Thank you, Shane, who says at one point John talks about how he would have be segs with Ygritte in the Godswood, meaning in front of Bran. Why is George so weird with siblings? Okay, so what Shane is referring to is that John, in his relationship with Ygritte, he fantasizes about what if I could take Ygritte home with me.
Have segs.
And be sex. He imagines making love to his girlfriend in his home. And
in the backyard.
I think that's...
in front of his dad's big tree in the backyard.
And I think that's quite lovely. At this time, John does not know that his brother Bran is a psychic tree wizard who can see through the eyes of trees. So I don't think that's meant to be weird. What I do think is meant to be weird is that John repeatedly thinks that Ygritte reminds him of Arya. And then he, in the same paragraph, feels sexually attracted to Ygritte and imagines what she looks like under her clothes. So, given that there was a love triangle planned in a 1990-something outline
like
of A Song of Ice and
93
Fire, there was an original plan for Jon and Arya to have a sexual relationship in early outlines of the story. So, if you're looking for weird incest undertones in Jon's relationship with Ygritte, there you go.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Wasn't the third point of that triangle Tyrion?
Yeah. Yep.
Nice work, George.
Yep. Yeah, it's amazing how many like catastrophically bad story decisions George like sidestepped.
Yeah,
you know?
like Jaime being this murderous guy who goes around killing everyone in line to the throne so that he can usurp the throne. Like Jaime Lannister just couldn't do that.
One of the
this doesn't make sense anymore.
One of the interesting things, so like I'm working on a video about Jon Snow in the books, and one of the interesting...
You've never mentioned this.
I know. One of the interesting things about Jon in the show compared to the books is that a lot of the things that the show added to the story, a lot of the things that the show did that weren't in the books, are things that George Martin did at one time plan to include in the books, but he decided not to. But then the show decided to do it. So an example of that is the mutineers at Crassus Keep, Carl Fucking Tanner, and all those fellas.
Legend of Chin Alley.
In the TV show, Jon goes and kills Carl Tanner. In the books, that does not happen. But apparently, in an early draft of the books, George did intend for Jon to go and do that. So it seems as though... the showrunners were like, oh, we'll do this thing that George planned. George must have told them that, oh, I was planning on doing this, so why don't you guys do that? But I think that, funnily enough, most of the things that George cut out of the story, he cut out for really good reasons. I think it was good that George removed that. And I think it was one of the more lame things that happened in the show. There's no like moral ambiguity to it.
As early as season 4, like when things were still pretty solid, it was one of the weirder things that happened.
Yeah, and it didn't really add much to the character.
It gave Jon something to do.
Yeah, because they made this weird timeline accident where Jon in season 3 gets ahead of all of the other characters in terms of his story arc.
That's right. He gets back to Castle Black at the end of season 3, with like a full season before the battle happens, which is like a few chapters later in the book.
Exactly. Yeah, all the storylines were desynced, so they added this mutineer plotline to get it back into sync.
So
I mean, maybe
Jon just like twiddles his thumbs for a season.
Yeah, it's very weird. And also, like in the TV show, Jon Snow goes to Hardhome and he fights the White Walker and he saves the wildlings. That also does not happen in the books.
George definitely thought about putting it in.
Yes, because, I mean, in that 2003 draft outline that we just mentioned, it says that Jon's arc will end at Hardhome.
And this is for the 4th book.
Yeah, which eventually got split into 2 books, Feast and Dance. Yeah. It's all so complicated. But the point is that, as far as I can discern, based on the information that's leaked out, it seems like a lot of the weird stuff that happens to Jon in the show was originally planned to be included in the books, but George changed his mind. So, just kind of interesting. Just kind of interesting to me.
It's been interesting.
Thank you, Ginger, who says, have you guys discussed the identity of the dragon across from Rhaenyra? We think it's probably Sea Smoke.
Dreamfire is an interesting thought. It could be Dreamfire, I guess. In my head, Dreamfire should be like pretty big because she's very old.
Yeah, Dreamfire is one of the older dragons. And
I think she's the second oldest dragon aside from Cannibal, because we don't know exactly how old the Cannibal is. But it's like Vhagar, Dreamfire, then Vermithor.
Yeah. So Dreamfire should be a big lad or a big
But
lass.
then when we see her in episode 6, she's not that big. She doesn't seem that big. It's kind of tough to tell.
Under the dragon pit.
Yeah.
Well, we don't even know for sure if that is Dreamfire, do we?
I guess it could have been Sunfire. But like we cut directly to Helena.
Is this?
That's
No.
Vhagar.
No. Where's the dragon? Is it episode 6?
Yeah, it is. How dare you question me?
You are very up to date on this. But yeah,
There it is.
This one. Yeah, we do glimpse this dragon that Aemon sees. But I mean, the lighting, you can't tell what color it is because of the lighting. I mean, it looks kind of red, actually.
I speculated that because it has the same sort of design as Drogon, Rhaegal, and Viserion, that it is Dreamfire, who is speculated to be their mother.
I mean,
it's a longbow.
Ryan Condal puts a lot of attention into those details, but does he put that much attention to the details? I don't know.
Honestly, he could.
Has he come
I
up?
really think he could.
Has he come up with the dragon family tree? I hope so.
Absolutely. If any showrunner of any show would have.
Well, the point is that we don't have any 100% confirmed sightings of Dreamfire.
Yeah.
So it's really hard to tell which one's Dreamfire, if any. Thank you, Hoyd, who says, will we ever get Fire and Blood abridged?
Oh, man. What an idea.
Yeah, well, I mean, Ultra X has spent about 17 years doing a chapter-by-chapter live stream analysis.
It's about a third of the way through A Clash of Kings.
Yeah, so I mean, maybe when Swift finishes A Song of Ice and Fire, Swift will then move on to Dunk and Egg and Fire and Blood. It might take a while at the current pace, but, who knows?
Who knows?
Thank you for the super chat from Belandra.
Belandra?
Who says, the good queen was so wroth with Sir Lucamore the Lusty for dishonouring the Kingsguard, because he also dishonoured his secret relationship with her and their secret children, Balon and Alyssa.
How dare you slander the good Queen Alysanne in my presence?
So, the good Queen Alysanne was...
Joe's wife.
Yes. King Jaehaerys Targaryen, who we saw in the flashback in episode 1 of House of the Dragon, was married to good Queen Alysanne. Lucamore the Lusty was a Kingsguard who had a bunch of kids, and
You're not supposed to do that as a Kingsguard, just by the by.
It's considered a no-no, and as punishment, Lucamore was gelded, wasn't he?
Yep.
Sent to the wall.
Yep.
So does Belandra reckon that good Queen Alysanne was having a secret affair with the Kingsguard? Do you believe it?
Why can't we let one person be good? Why can't one person in this franchise just have been good?
Yeah, well, because Just Man is dead. Because the Danes are dead. I mean, George has already done this.
Yeah, this is exactly Nerys.
Aemon the Dragon Knight had a relationship possibly with Nerys, the wife of King Aegon IV.
It is alleged and heavily believed that their son Daeron is actually a bastard with Aemon.
Yeah, so I mean, it's something that George has done before and will do again if he's not stopped. So look, it wouldn't shock us, but there isn't a lot of evidence either way in Fire and Blood. I
would like to believe that. No.
Yeah. Thank you, Andre, who says House of the Dragon season 2 trailer, episode 10 Bliss incoming.
Mm-hmm.
You two collabing. Life is good.
We're collabing for the first time. Just a correction.
Yeah, I've never met Glidus before.
I have no idea who this man is.
Thank you.
D. Brian Haidar, who says, what do you guys think Aegon II would put in his wheat bix?
Well, Aegon 2 is like a lustful...
Bourbon.
Bourbon.
Put bourbon in his wheat bix.
Yeah, I could see it. Yeah, look,
it's like an Archer sort of move.
I mean, this is the kind of kid who masturbates out a window. Like, he's a pleasure seeker. So, yeah, I mean, bourbon, Smarties, like, whatever you can imagine. Cocoa Puffs.
anything, and then he'd take the wheat bix out.
Eat around the wheat bix, yeah. Thank you, Jordan, who
Gold
says, where
leaf.
is Sunfire?
I know. Show me Sunfire, damn it.
So Sunfire is the dragon of Aegon II. And Sunfire in the books is called the Golden because he's the most beautiful, magnificent dragon ever. But sadly, we've not seen him looking magnificent in the show. There was this brief
So it's
glimpse.
for 4 seconds.
I mean,
You can see him for 4 seconds,
This
and
is-
he's like pixelated in the background.
yeah. I would have preferred they just didn't show us Sunfire at all until we can see Sunfire looking better. But I mean, I guess they wanted to establish that, hey, look, there's a bunch more Targaryen dragons. You know, they
and
didn't.
honestly, this shot, it's an Easter egg, really, and we've just been looking at it for a year. Normal people are like, oh, there's a dragon in the background.
Because he is meant to have those like pink highlights as well as the main
Yeah, the
golden
e-girl
thing, isn't it?
streaks.
The e-girl streaks. So yeah, look, I expect. I mean, surely what they're gonna do is give us a nice, dramatic, fun introduction of Sunfire early.
The same
in
way we
season
got
2.
a cool introduction to Vermithor.
Yeah. I think we will get a moment of that, and you know, it's like I enjoy the injustice that the monstrous, depraved Aegon II has this beautiful dragon. And that sort of connects with the theme with a lot of the Greens in Hot D about how the Greens have this veneer of being noble and pure and
The moral,
and faithful
righteous
and moral,
side.
but like just beneath the surface, they are as corrupt as anybody.
It's not even beneath the surface, because like the king and queen are brother or sister.
Well, I mean that's fine
if you're
in Targaryen.
Yeah,
I mean,
but, like,
yeah,
come the fuck on.
I mean, yeah, I mean it complicates their Faith of the Seven entanglements. But Rhaenyra says that to Alicent when Alicent attacks her with a knife. She says, like, you are just pretending to be noble, and beneath it's just a cloak of nobility. And so I feel like Sunfire works as like part of that cloak of nobility for the Greens. He looks magnificent, he looks beautiful, he looks regal, and yet Aegon is a monster. I feel like that's part of the symbolism there. So yeah, I look forward to seeing our beautiful golden Sunfire too.
Fleischer236 who says, what's your favorite David Lightbringer theory?
I have been reading a bit about like the ancient myths of Westeros, and that's a topic that YouTuber David Lightbringer has been deep into for a long time. And I do like the idea that, you know, all of these myths about Azor Ahai and the Grey King and the Winged Knight and and the Bloodstone Emperor and all of those people might all point to some important, like, inciting incidents that happened in the ancient history of Westeros. And, you know, some of these stories hint at, like, humans stealing power from the gods, like the Grey King stole fire from the gods and killed this tree figure called Ygg. And Azor Ahai killed Nissa and cracked the moon. And the Bloodstone Emperor killed the Amethyst Empress and worshipped a black stone and ruled for a long time. And I think that if you sort of synthesize these ideas, one of the interpretations of those myths is that maybe Azor Ahai, this mythic figure, killed a child of the forest or some kind of weirwood old gods figure and sort of stole their power, like stole skin-changing power. And that skin-changing power might be what allowed the first dragon riders to control their dragons, because it seems like a similar kind of magic. And that crime, that original sin of stealing that power from the trees and from the children of the forest, might have been what led to the creation of the White Walkers and the imbalance of the seasons, and that might be the crime that has to be restored and fixed and atoned for in order to save the world from the White Walkers, restore the seasons to normal.
Well, how does that sort of thing get atoned? How do you repair that rift?
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't want to give away everything that I'm going to say in the real Jon Snow video that's coming up. But,
really?
You know, but certainly David Lightbringer has talked about, you know, the idea of burning a weirwood tree and sort of symbolically giving the fire back to the tree, or, you know, Daenerys or Jon having to die and to give their power back to the tree or something like that. And the idea that inciting incident might have been a human having sex with a child of the forest, an adult child of the forest. Terminology gets complicated. But, you know, the idea of that, something like that.
Teenagers of the forest running around.
Tweens of the forest. Yeah, so something like that. I think that David Lightbringer is barking up the correct trees in some of those areas. I mean, I haven't seen a fraction of David Lightbringer's.
He's a very prolific worker.
Yeah, a lot of long essays, a lot of big live streams, and some of them are really great, and I invite you to check them out. But yeah, there's lots of great deep theories kicking around in the fandom for a long time, and yeah, it's cool to check them out. Thank you for the super chat from Glidus Pike, who says, "Father, Schwill Hill and Quien Flowers have entered the drowned god's watery halls. They were taken in the rear by the crow's eye whilst fleeing the shields. I've sent word to the late Lord Haven, begging aid. Glidus."
All right, sounds like you got this sorted out then.
I'd love to read like a wiki summary.
Yeah, someone's got to get on this.
Because I'm going to be honest, like
I can't keep.
I can keep track of A Song of Ice and Fire. I cannot keep track of the movements of
all of mine and
my
Swift bastards.
I want to see a family tree. Like how does Glidus Pike relate exactly
Someone needs
to?
to like construct a subreddit for people to collaborate and figure all of this out.
It's going to turn into like an RP mush.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
It's going to be a sub mod for the Crusader Kings 3 Game of Thrones mod.
Glidus, I'll pray for you. Thank you, Radnedge, who says, top priority after Dany returned from her first time riding Drogon should have been to have a saddle
That
made.
is true. You get off that thing and like, yep, we're fixing this right away.
Can you imagine how uncomfortable it would be sitting on those spiky scales?
Oh, I don't know. Her hair looked fine, so...
Here's the other thing about Daenerys. Daenerys had just spent a year sitting on a horse saddle.
Yeah.
She spent most of her time in a saddle.
Yeah.
How could she not think, hey, we should put a saddle on this dragon? She must have known saddle makers among the Dothraki. Saddle making must have been one of the main cultural activities of the Dothraki, for sure, right?
Yeah.
Thank you, Kaiser, who says, what if the reason the dragons got smaller and died off was due to inbreeding, considering they all from 3 dragons, and it would be a thematic reflection of the Targaryen incest?
Yeah. Like it's just a too small a gene pool to support a lengthy descendant line.
Yeah, because one of the details about the dragons is that, like, towards a certain point
Yeah.
in the history, the dragons started getting small and misshapen, and they didn't
Sickly
thrive
and
anymore.
weird.
And the books offer a bunch of different reasons why that may have happened. And one reason is that the Targaryens started keeping the dragons inside the dragon pit, and they don't...
Made them weaker and smaller.
And another theory is that the maesters may have poisoned the dragons because they didn't want the dragons around.
I'm
burning
coming
people.
around on the idea that like every time the Maesters are accused of some grand conspiracy to rob someone else of their power, it's just nonsense. It's just made up.
Well, except that we see something like that happen in the prologue of A Clash of Kings, right? Like,
Yeah,
in
that
the
is true.
books, Maester Crescent tries to assassinate Melisandre for political and ideological reasons,
Yeah.
partly because he opposes her being a sorceress.
Yeah, right. But that is one Maester acting on his personal volition, right?
Yeah.
And like, sure, there might be some like underlying institutional fear of magic and that sort of power, but I think it's just going to be more complicated in the end than the Maesters wanted the dragons gone, so they killed them all.
Yeah, I don't think the Dance of the Dragons is ever going to be one thing with one cause. It'll be boring if they say it was all the Maesters' manipulation. But I
Yeah.
mean, Hot D has also leaned in to the
Yeah.
conniving nature of the Maesters and Otto's connection to the Maesters through Old Town. And so, you know, it is implied that Otto is using the Maesters to push his own political agenda. And yeah, we see like isolated incidents like Crescent trying to poison Melisandre in A Song of Ice and
And then
Fire.
there's Marwyn, who accuses his own institution of all these grand misdeeds over the past millennia.
Yeah. It's quite funny. But I think that, you know, so conspiracies happen.
Yeah.
But George is very focused on individual characters. So he's never going to let individual motivations, individual emotions be erased for the sake of some kind of conspiracy. So
This scene. Oh my god.
oh, yeah, let's not even look at season 7.
There's one acolyte attending to the entire conclave of archmaesters.
Thank you for the super chat from 47th Light, who says, "This is a bit strange and wimpy on my part, but being a new mother, I'm concerned about..."
Perhaps we should address that in some time.
Yeah, so we're not going to discuss major plot spoilers in this stream. Maybe at the very end we briefly will. But, to talk generally, there's a lot of murder and assault and war in this show and in Game of Thrones. So I guess we've all got to make decisions about what kind of stuff we want to see and how to handle it.
And I completely understand this. My brother watches my videos and he's about to become a father for the first time. And I'm just like, I'm going to tell him to stop just for a little bit.
We saw Luke die in season 1, and we see Rhaenyra as a parent having to deal with that and the consequences of that. And yeah, I don't think there's any shame if you feel like child murder is not the kind of entertainment that you want to see.
Yeah, no judgment from me if that's something you want to avoid.
Yeah, I think a media diet should not only contain child murder. It's not what everyone needs to see at every time, and that's all right.
Rich and Hung asks, what state of Aus do we handsome young lads come from? Making a lot of assumptions there.
Well, I come from the southern part of Austria.
Oh, yeah, near Tyrol?
That's right.
Yep. I come from the state of inebriation, as do most of us.
I thought that was the capital of... yeah. No, I think geographic ambiguity is our preferred state, isn't it? Thank you, Haley, who says, odds of HBO making a prequel not focused on Targs.
Oh, I'm not hopeful.
Yeah,
like, Duncan Egg is going to happen, but, one of the main characters is a Targaryen.
They filmed a pilot for a show called Blood Moon that was about the ancient Westerosi before the Targaryens, involving ancient Starks and ancient Lannisters, and involving origins of the White Walkers potentially. And that sounds potentially interesting, maybe also potentially terrible, could go a bunch of different ways. There is a lot of interesting history in that time.
It's all incredibly vague at this point.
Yeah. So, maybe, but HBO turned down that pilot for a reason, presumably.
Yep.
But before Aegon's conquest, there isn't a whole lot of detailed history to work with, really. There's mostly just legends. There's mostly just history, so...
Yeah.
There is stuff like, the Golden Empire of Yi that is apparently being developed. But that we just don't have any detailed stories or information about those places, really. So it's kind of hard to say. In theory, you can write a great story set anywhere. You know, as long as you got good characters and good story, anything's possible.
Yep.
So we'll see what happens.
My dad, after a bath, once again says, "Think we'll get Duncan Egg books faster because of the show." No. I think that George has forced himself to not work on that stuff until, the one everyone wants is done.
George Martin said about 6 or 8 years ago, I will not write anything until I finish The Winds of Winter. And then he wrote 2 more books. So, look, he said that he's going to write 10 more Duncan Egg stories to finish the Tales of Duncan Egg. I don't think we will get them all.
Unless he writes one a month.
I think
just fall out of him.
I think that it could possibly work if, George Martin sat down with the showrunners of the Duncan Egg TV show. And I hope Ryan Condal's in the room. And he just sort of tells the outline, the basic idea of each Duncan Egg story. And I could imagine that in the right hands, an outline of George's plans could be turned into a good Duncan Egg show. I think that's possible, but I am frustrated that they are starting another TV adaptation of another unfinished George Martin book series. That's how I feel.
Yeah.
And sure, maybe the Duncan Egg show will make George focus more on the Duncan Egg books, but that'll be at the cost of George focusing on finishing the Winds of Winter. So, it's...
But what if they do an adaptation of the main Ice and Fire books, and that'll make him focus on those books?
Oh, that would work. They should make a TV show of Game of Thrones, they could call it.
Isn't it crazy how between Game of Thrones being greenlit and today, one book has come out?
Yeah. Yeah. It does not seem as though the TV shows have helped George finish the main books.
No.
Kat says it's confusing for the future story to not include Daeron. Yeah,
Absolutely.
we agree.
It's confusing for the past story because he's in the credits.
Mike says new H-Bomber guy video.
What do they tell you?
Look at that.
What do they tell you?
Are we prophets? Thank you, Cass Mays, who says, thank you both for getting me through a very difficult time in my life. I cannot describe how much these videos have helped me. I appreciate you, the comfort content.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Cass. Hope you're doing good.
Glad we could help.
Yeah. Thank you, Shane, who says, thanks to both of you. I listened to all the books from Dave Reads A Song of Ice and Fire, and now join the wait for wins. I honestly hate not getting into it until now.
I don't know if you missed out on much.
Is Dave Reads A Song of Ice and Fire, is that a YouTube channel that reads the books?
Yeah.
And that is
somehow,
up on YouTube still.
Somehow stays afloat, yes.
I will never understand YouTube's copyright policy.
Oh
Never.
Yeah, no, my 80-minute commentary that's heavily edited and transformative of House of Dragon. No, that's copyright infringement.
When Glidus uses 7 consecutive seconds of footage
How did you know
from the TV
How
show,
did you know?
he gets the Susan Hammer. But there's other YouTube channels doing other things that are
He's just reading the books.
Yeah, which again, more power to you. But it's a very confusing world we live in terms of copyright.
This is the life I chose.
Very confusing. Thanks for the super chat from Mira Reads.
Hi, Mira. Do what you love because a pirate is free. You are a pirate.
Thank you, Guy Incognito, who says, love both channels. Glidus is a cheeky...
What does that word say? Cont?
And I love it.
Kent?
Question. How do you chaps think they'll handle sea smoke?
Kent?
Yeah, I mean, we spoke a bit about sea smoke. It is an interesting difference between the show and the books, that in the books, it seems that sea smoke, that Laenor Velaryon is dead, whereas in the show, Laenor Velaryon is alive. So the question is, will sea smoke get a new rider? Is it possible for sea smoke to get a new rider while Laenor is still alive? We don't know. We can't speculate too much without giving spoilers. Maybe we'll do a spoiler corner towards the end. Thank you, Bane's Basement, who says, do you think this season's prophecy reference will be between Jace and Cregan? Should we enter the spoiler zone?
Yeah, why not?
All right. I would like to declare a spoiler zone. We
abandon all hope, ye who pass this threshold.
Yes. So spoiler zone. I mean, it's a medium-sized spoiler. It's a mild to medium-sized spoiler. That when in the books, when Jacaerys goes to the north and he meets the Lord of Winterfell, Cregan Stark, there is is it called a Pact of Ice and Fire?
Yeah.
When the Targaryens and the Starks make an alliance to support Rhaenyra. And that wording is very evocative of the Song of Ice and Fire and connects to the prophecy of the Prince that was promised, which is the prophecy connected to Aegon conquering Westeros to stop the White Walkers, etc. So it would make a lot of sense if Jace and Cregan discussed the prophecy of the Prince that was promised. It is weird that we have not seen Rhaenyra tell Jace about that prophecy. So like you said, maybe Cregan will tell Jace about the prophecy.
Yeah, because the Starks could know it. It might be the thing that Aegon used to convince Torrhen Stark to yield the North to him in the Wars of Conquest.
Yeah.
Because Torrhen went down without a fight.
Yeah, that's a great point.
It's famous artwork.
And there are some sort of suggestions and theories that the Starks have special knowledge of the White Walkers and even some kind of potential deal with, how the war went up and the White Walkers stopped attacking in the first place. So, it does make a lot of sense that there might be a bit of shared knowledge, which, adds to the tragedy of the loss of that knowledge and the deaths that happen later on. So, yeah, I mean, that could make a lot of sense. But, I mean, the more they talk about the prophecy stuff, the more I just get confused, because it's like the prophecy stuff in Game of Thrones Season 8 didn't matter. Arya killed the Night King, and Arya did not have anything to do with the prophecy compared to Jon and Daenerys. So it's like, it's a bit puzzling to me the more they emphasize the prophecy stuff. Because it just doesn't connect to the Game of Thrones show. So, I don't know. What do you think?
They'd have to retcon, or is it like a post-con because it's going forward?
Oh, God.
Yeah. Yeah. Arya has no Targaryen blood, so far as we know, so it just doesn't really add up. Yeah, I think it's definitely steering towards book canon and away from show canon, but that's like something that the show can't really explain in its own text. It's like Jace turns to the camera and says, "By the way, this isn't leading to the season 8, you know? Just so you know." Yeah,
House of the Dragon exists in a really weird, like,
it's a wibbly wobbly canon space.
Limbo, where it's sort of somewhere in between the books and the show. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't love the use of the prophecy stuff in Hot D, honestly. But we'll see how it goes.
I think they need to be careful with it.
Thanks for the super chat from Folan, who said, "Are we exiting the spoiler zone?"
Let's just stay there for now.
All right. Well,
what's the point?
Well, how about you discuss Jon dying at Hardhome while I alter the visuals to warn people?
Asking, does that mean Jon would have died at Hardhome? I think this is in reference to that outline where George, or what you were talking about earlier, where George said that Jon's arc was going to end at Hardhome. I think that could have worked if he had died there and come back to life, as a result of the battle at Hardhome. But I guess George decided it was cooler if it was, his own brothers who killed him in a mutiny. That very much could have been the case. That's what he envisioned at some point, and then later decided to not do that.
Thanks, Lady Stoneheart Kimmy G, who says, "Love yous, all three, Glimbo, Swifty, and even this one, Swift. Thanks for a great afternoon. Needed it today."
You got it.
Thank you, Aurelion, who says, "How much do we need to donate to have Swifty released from the dungeons? I don't think he can do more food description streams from down there."
You should put like a donation goal bar on the stream.
Yeah, if you're going to post bail for Swift, it's not going to be cheap, I think. His crimes are beyond forgiving.
Joseph Rizzo says, "Hello, Glimblend and Shifting Away. Now that the final Bliss Take is done, might get a Baldur's Gate 3 stream. The content is still hot. Is it? Do people still care?" I barred myself from playing any of these hot new titles that came out this year until I had finished working on the thing I was supposed to be working on. So I haven't played Starfield or Baldur's Gate or any of these. What are you doing over there?
I'm just blocking out the thing that says no spoilers.
Okay. Maybe I'll stream it. I don't know.
I would like to play Baldur's Gate at some point.
I still haven't played Elden Ring, and that was something I said that I would stream.
Yeah, me
because
neither.
It's got Gurm involved in it.
Yeah, there's a lot of games that I'd like to play. It's just finding the time.
Yeah, and sometimes like when I want to experience a game like that, I don't want to do it before a live studio audience. I want to just do it on my own.
Yeah. I think a lot of YouTubers go through the thing of, oh, I like live streaming, I like video games. What if I live stream playing video games?
And then suddenly it became a job.
Yeah, it turns something that is like fun and relaxing into something that's like draining.
Yeah.
Thank you, Canary, who says, "Love both of y'all's videos. Just wanted to say that I know Glidus is an Aquarius. What is Altshift X's astronomy sign? I'm an Ophiuchus. Yeah, I'm an Ophiuchus.
Wow.
No, that's just me trying to sound cool. Do we have more things to say about this teaser, or should we wrap up this live stream?
I'm sure we could.
The question is, should we?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, we've talked for 3 hours about a 90-second
should we quickly
teaser.
go through, now that we're in the spoiler zone, should we talk about what, actually will happen?
Yeah, all right. I'm going to put a bit of text on the screen that says spoiler zone. What are some of the spoilers that we want to talk about?
Oh, jeez.
So, I mean, one of the things is like sea smoke, right? So, like, spoiler, spoiler warning, spoiler warning, spoiler warning. Oh, God, is it Adam or Alan? Adam Valerion claims sea smoke in the books, which raises this really interesting question of, is Laenor still alive? I mean, and Adam, by the way, is, said to be the son of Laenor Velaryon, who is gay, which is odd. So a lot of people think that is actually Corlys, who is the father of Adam and Alan. And some people even speculated, that Adam Velaryon might actually be Laenor,
Yeah, I love that idea.
returning from the east,
That's so funny.
thus explaining how Adam could claim sea smoke by simply being Laenor. But like,
He finally acquired a fake mustache.
but what is the point of faking your own death and becoming someone else if you are gonna inhabit almost the same role in the same family in the same war?
Well,
Like what?
Now I'm no longer Rhaenyra's husband, you see.
It's a hell of a way to break up with someone. We've all tried it.
Have them fake your death for you.
Genius. So yeah, I mean, yeah, the role of Adam, and I assume they're going to play it the same way as it's played in the books, with them being Corlys's and pretending to be Laenor's, and
Yeah.
But I mean, I do like the way,
Because it would be offensive to Rhaenys if they were Corlys's bastards.
yeah, which sort of is a Catelyn comparison, isn't it? Like Catelyn's frustration with Ned claiming Jon as his bastard, and how will Rhaenys feel about Corlys's bastards, Adam and Alan, being around.
A lot of Cat's agitation was that Ned kept his supposed bastard around,
Yeah.
which Corlys clearly hasn't done.
Yeah, well, he's certainly not now if he's bringing Adam and Alan into the fold.
Yeah.
One of the other spoilery things is that, and there's a minor spoiler really, but that guy I think is the Lord of Duskendale, Lord
Right.
Darklyn,
Yeah.
because Kristen Cole is going to do some smashy in the Crown Lands, and that's going to lead on to that battle that we've seen. Spinny balls, flying sea smoke. This spoiler, mild spoiler, I think, is probably Harrenhal, right?
Yep.
Because Daemon takes over Harrenhal.
And there's a weirwood there. We know there are weirwoods at Harrenhal.
And I think the Harrenhal weirwood is going to matter because Alice Rivers is there. Yep. And Alice is this sort of magical, mysterious character
Bran is watching.
Might be connected. I mean, yeah, look, if Isaac Hempstead Wright makes some kind of like voiceover appearance in this, it would not be terrible, honestly. I would kind of like it. And yeah, I mean, mild spoilers, Aemon does sort of rise to basically become the king in all but name.
Yeah, in Aegon's stead.
Yeah. We don't really know what this Night's Watchy Northern
Yeah, no,
thing
I
is.
still don't know what this is, even in the spoiler zone.
I mean, I guess the Night's Watch people could be an opportunity to say, hey, White Walkers are scary. We are going to the Night's Watch because there are White Walkers out there.
Honestly,
so,
if I'm a free folk chieftain beyond the wall, and I hear that there's a civil war going on in Westeros, and the Lord of the North is pledging his troops to go south, that's the perfect time to attack.
Yeah, that's a great point.
I don't know if they're going to do that. I doubt they will, but could happen.
Just a mini war between the wildlings and the Night's Watch in the background. That'd be fun.
Bit of a filler arc.
Yeah. A B plot. Mild. Well, spoiler. But some people speculate that this event might be a funeral for Spoiler, the son of Alicent Jaehaerys, who gets cheesed.
It's Aegon's son.
Oh, sorry. Yes, Aegon and Helena's
We've been live
son.
for a long time, don't worry.
Yeah, we're going to wrap up this live stream shortly. And
I love that Rhaenys is sort of like an angel / devil on Rhaenyra's shoulder here.
Yeah, I mean, I think more angel.
Yeah.
She doesn't want the...
Yeah, but consider what she's done. She's
well,
not
after she murdered all
morally
the common
unambiguous.
people, yeah. And yeah, we do know from the books that the Brackens and Blackwoods take this war as an opportunity to do some fighting.
Yeah. As happens all over the country, Dalton Greyjoy shows up. Yeah, you know what? There's a war going on. Let's do some reaving.
There isn't really anything interesting to say about this particular spoiler, so I don't think we need to,
Yeah, true.
It's no fun spoil. I don't like the spoiler zone.
Yeah, no, I don't get any.
Yeah.
I don't get my
no
kicks
joy from
by
this. Yeah,
by
because
saying, I know what this is.
yeah, we can just tell you everything that's going to happen, but that would not be fun for anyone.
Yeah.
If you want to know everything that's going to happen,
read
just
the-
read
read the
Fire
book.
and Blood, or read The World of Ice and Fire, or read the wiki. I don't want to sit here and tell you everything that's going to happen.
And there's a scene in season 3 of Game of Thrones where Joffrey tells you what happens.
yeah, if you want to know everything that happens, you can.
Is it season 4?
But I think we're gonna wrap it up. There's been a long live stream.
Indeed.
Thank you so much, everybody, for listening. This has been fun.
Hey, thanks for having me on the channel.
Yeah, you're very welcome to be here. This was fun. And yeah, maybe we'll do some more streams again. Talk about some more Hot D. Next time there's more Hot D to talk about. We will make Alt Shift X videos about House of the Dragon when the season's on. Next time there's a trailer out, we'll probably make a video about that. For the time being, I'm working on the real Jon Snow video, which is the biggest Alt Shift X video ever. And it's all about Jon Snow in the books, and it's almost done.
And if you want to hear about the fake Jon Snow, head on over and watch the season 6 mistake.
Oh boy, yes. Well, Glidus has a bunch of videos about the show and about Hot D. And what can we expect from you, Glidus?
Oh god, well, I'm just wrapping up my House of the Dragon series, hopefully today. And then back to season 6 with me. Hopefully I can finish that off before House of the Dragon season 2 starts airing. Maybe I can square away some other ancient promises as well.
Ooh. I look forward to it.
What?
So do subscribe to Glidus, link in the description. Do subscribe to Alt Shift X. You can listen to this live stream on the
podcast stream.
On the Alt Shift X podcast feed.
That's incredible.
So you can listen to this on Spotify or the podcast app of your choice. So yeah, like and subscribe and comment your favorite dragon wig. Thank you for the super chat from Canary. And we'll see you all next time.
Bye-bye.